Hey, how's everybody doing? It's the Redeye stream, number 135, Anarchy, Revolution, and Independence. I figured it's a couple days until the 4th of July. And a fun fact, actually, the Declaration of Independence was signed today on July 2nd, and they just gave it out to the public on the 4th. They needed time to review it and replicate it. But anyway, we got a couple new people on the panel today. You guys want to introduce yourselves? Jeremiah, you can go ahead and go first, sir.
Oh, I will go last. I do that. Everybody can go first.
All right, Vash, you want to tell everybody about your channel and what you do over there?
Hey everybody, I'm Vash Lancet, the Token Dargan. I play video games. I occasionally do a few debates and stuff like that. There's a lot of other projects that, well, I plan on, but not necessarily happens right now. But we do gaming content for the most part. I coach people in League of Legends currently.
All right, Redneck, do you have a YouTube channel? I don't know. I just met you on Discord yesterday.
Yes, sir, I do. My name, Jep Redneck's technically a character, but that's my character and persona on YouTube. When I'm not using him, I'm referring to myself to as West Shrimp Po' Boy Savage, because around my area they call me Shrimp Po' Boy. When I have my characters join me, we do different things. I do song covers. I give how-tos on stuff. I talk about various subjects, controversial or not. I teach people how to do different things. And I try to share with people what I learn best I can. And I join with others on different streams and different if they're willing to have me, like you and Vash, and I appreciate that, by the way. Thank y'all. And that's pretty much the gist of it. So hope you guys are in for a fun time tonight, this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody knows MC. He's a regular here on every show. So MC, if you want to shout out your channel, go ahead, sir. If not, we can move on to Jeremiah.
We'll just move on.
All right. I'm Jeremiah Harding. I'm Insanity is Free on Twitter. I'm Jeremiah Talks on YouTube, so you can just go to youtube.com/Jeremiah Talks and you'll find me. Additionally, I do 2 3-hour streams every week. One is Shit Shooting Sunday. You can find that by the hashtag that I use for it. One is Real News Wednesday, REEL News Wednesday, and that's a news stream that I do every Wednesday. I'm also about to start a regular daily morning news stream that will be an hour long a piece and designed to get people angry enough to shoot up their workplace. I do a regular e-radio show on journalisticrevolution.com, IPM Nation, and AR Radio. I have the State Smash podcast, which I'm about to submit for approval. And basically, I'm an angry anarchist conspiracy theorist, and depending on who you talk to, I'm either a communist or a Nazi. And yeah, I collect Chaos Emeralds and talk about like angry anarchist rants online.
Well, you'll fit right in around here. So when it comes to anarchy, I'll start with you, Jeremiah. What do you consider yourself, if you consider yourself an anarchist? What kind? An anarcho-capitalist, or go ahead.
I'm an anarcho-coalitionist. I'm willing to work with anybody legitimately interested in ending the state, and that means that I might have to, admit that I'm wrong about a few things. I've been going through a lot of literature over the past several years, over the past 5 years, to really refine my ideas. But largely, I prefer stateless capitalism in theory, even though it's never really been tried. And I prefer that, but at the same time, I'm willing to accept any paradigm that doesn't involve enslavement by default, which is what the government is.
Well, MC, you got any thoughts on that? And I'll get this started off real quick, because MC is far more conservative than I am and less accepting of anarchy.
That's because anarchy is dangerous.
I think government's dangerous. I think nukes are pretty dangerous.
Okay.
Well, Well, no, MC, you say anarchy is dangerous. I can see that in one way. Anarchy leaves a void. That void will be filled by something. And that something is probably going to be a more authoritarian state than you had to begin with.
Why does anarchy leave a void?
Because it's not anarchy by its very nature is 100% individualistic, but that is not the totality of humanity. Humanity is both a social creature and an individual. All right, we have a dual nature to that, and as a result, you end up in some kind of relationship, whether you like it or not, that has what people would look at as from a dominant feature to a more passive feature, or a leadership feature to a follower feature.
I don't think you understand what the word anarchy means, but I think we need to let this the bear dog introduce himself before I respond.
If only I was a dude. Hi.
How are you doing the night, Wolf Shot?
I'm really high, and I think Jeremiah over here, like, Jesus with a bong. Fuck me up with it. I'm here to listen and I'm here to learn. I'm not going to fight with anybody. I usually, like, you know, I much care for the libertarian shit, but I'm going to listen and learn me a thing.
Yeah, we'll convert you sooner or later. Anyway, Jeremiah, go ahead.
All right, so anarchy, the word, comes from anarchos, two Latin roots, which generally imply a lack of ruler, not rules, but ruler. And basically, the modern interpretation of anarchy as chaos or as leaderless fails to acknowledge the possibility of decentralized leadership and decentralized hierarchy, or a lack of hierarchy at all, which is possible structurally. But largely,
how do you see that? You say that's possible structurally. How?
Well, it's possible structurally. Like, I want to see, like, basically I was saying it looks good on paper, the lack of hierarchy. I'd like to see that tested, but there are many forms of anarchy, much to the chagrin of a lot of people that I've spoken to, that don't involve, that do involve hierarchy and leadership. They just don't have that leadership forced on the people by default.
Well, I mean, if you look at quite a few different forms of government, you'll find that a lot of them work out on paper. I mean,
well, right, but that's the thing. I want to see a lot of these things, a lot of these various forms of anarchy tested, and I want to see them compete with one another to see which one gets the most public support and or is the best thing for moving forward. Because there's a lot of things that competition has a way of weeding out. And
so
to a large extent, the state, by monopolizing force, prevents people from that competition, prevents people from seeing what does work in practical application and how it could work in practical application.
How are you going to prevent a monopolization of force?
Well, first off, the monopolization of force prevents, and by the way, I can hear myself on somebody's mic. It's kind of throwing me off, but it kind of prevents any sort of, like, rebellion in any meaningful sense, rather than uprooting the system. So I would say that if you have decentralized power, and if that decentralized power is allowed to last for a while because you have interested people in it, which would ultimately be the only way that that sort of thing took root anyway, basically power monopolization would become much more difficult and much more costly. And I think that many, many more people would start to realize that maybe if they want to start up a rulership, they're going to have to change the people back to the way they were before anarchy took hold.
Okay, but the reality of that is that all it would take to sit up there and subsume that anarchy, right, is a group of people under a strong leader utilizing force.
How big a group?
Wouldn't matter. They could grow.
It would. Because, no, they could grow, just takes the scale of how big a group they are and puts it to infinite.
No, it doesn't.
It's not an argument. It's not an argument.
If you start off in a small group and it doesn't take much, it just takes a single leader. All right. It didn't take much for the Mongols, all right, to get a leader together, all right, and under the Khans to sit up there and stomp out all of China.
And
It
those
didn't
people
take- it
weren't
didn't
in an
take much of
anarchist
a-
paradigm. You're making a bad argument here.
No,
or a
it's not.
non-argument.
That's exactly an anarchist paradigm where
No, there
you were
wasn't.
broken down in in small family units, where they then said, okay, we're all going to get together under a large leader and put an end to an entire nation.
Oh man, the fact that you're talking about the Huns ransacking imperial China and saying that that's an argument against anarchy is absurd. I'm not going to take it, yo.
Okay, well then explain to me how you're going to stop it if a person gets a group of people together,
How
all right,
big
and
a
start
group?
moving. We'll say that your group is 15.
Okay, so that 15-person group is going to take down an entire country's worth of people.
When
huh?
you've got a bunch of individuals who sit up there and say, okay, well, I'll just let this happen and roll over them. Yeah,
They don't need to. That's what power.
What do you
That's
mean
what.
they don't
No,
need
no.
to?
That's
All
what
we have to
power.
do
You're
is
interrupting me. Don't ask what I don't. Don't ask what I mean, and then interrupt me.
I apologize.
So, like what I was saying is, if you decentralize power, if you have that sort of lack of monopoly, in many cases, like, and this has been shown in clinical trials on things like rats, but it's also scalable in theory, which is again why I'd like to see this sort of happen, so that these ideas could compete. But effectively, when you decentralize power, when you remove that monopoly on power, people are more capable of personally defending themselves and less likely to roll over. Realistically, if you have that sort of paradigm, it was created not because people were okay with government, but because enough people weren't okay with government, the government got abolished in the first place. You are doing something that I've encountered countless times and placing anarchy in a vacuum that you refuse to acknowledge statism in. And so, like, if I'm talking about anarchy, I'm talking about a post-state society. I'm not saying this on paper because I'm not dumb. I also, by the way, am a pessimist, and I don't think this will happen in my lifetime. But at the same time, if we have anarchy, it's because enough people stepped away from government to give it a lack of support, and those people would have to be convinced to accept a new state. And I think that if the government was gone and people had like the same level of power or competitive level of power to their local government thug, that they would essentially supplant the need for that sort of power, and they would prevent this vacuum that you speak of from coming up and being nearly as powerful as you claim it is.
What you're proposing, though, is that everybody agree with your anarchist philosophy simultaneously.
No,
Well,
I
not
didn't say
necessarily.
simultaneously. I'm talking incrementalism.
Then if you attempt to do it incrementally, then you're going to have states continually existing.
And
Until they don't.
May
I'm
I?
saying-
Sure.
Well, real quick, I want to say something. You don't necessarily have to do it on a statewide level. Look at areas in Detroit that are completely void. All right,
Yeah.
The houses are empty. The cops won't go there. There's no water service. You know, you could barely get electricity. Those areas could be bought up by somebody with a libertarian mindset,
Or
and
just patrolled by vipers.
you could have an influx of people into an area who pretty much govern themselves, because the city of Detroit will not govern them at all. They just don't care anymore, or they're so bankrupt they can't do anything.
And that's already happening. You should look into Viper's threat management. What were you going to say, Bear Dog?
If you don't mind, I'd like to hear Base Dragon and Derpy's opinion on this.
Yeah, no problem.
My apologies for interrupting.
No, I mean, I'm good at answering questions, so if anybody has anything they want to throw at me, I'm used to this. But yeah, I absolutely want to hear everybody.
Okay. I guess I'll go ahead. In the conversation, whenever you were saying that you wish for multiple forms of anarchy to work,
I don't.
Or you're wanting to test out. Okay, I misphrased that. You're wanting to test out multiple forms of anarchy.
Yeah, allow them to compete.
Yes. One of the things. Well, there's 3 books that I thought of whenever you mentioned that. One was, and that they are fiction. You know, they're not real. But one of them was Lord of the Flies. Another book was Atlas Shrugged.
Mm-hmm.
and the other book was it was a tie between the Grapes of Wrath and where was the other one? It was anyway. What I was oh, Animal Farm. That's what it was.
Well,
Showing
the only
how-
one I haven't read so far is Grapes of Wrath. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, so Animal Farm shows how, and another reason why I was thinking of Animal Farm because of how red your icon is, but like it was showing how communism on paper was an excellent idea, but because of how you'll see in history how certain movements are overtaken from the inside and move to push another agenda. So
Yeah.
how
And
could
that's
you?
the thing that see the thing is, in Animal Farm there was not anarchy. Even in the sense of anarcho-communism, Animal Farm does not properly represent anarchy.
Yeah,
And the point of Animal Farm was to show that you couldn't subvert power structures and expect that sort of thing to last. In terms of Animal Farm, the guy who wrote it was trying to warn people of the possibility of total betrayal in terms of power structure subversion. And
yeah,
the message,
corruption of the power structure.
right, but the message of that is that if you mean to subvert the power structure, you can't do it by creating a new one. You can't do it by creating a new set of broad rules and then creating a centralized class of people to decide how those rules are enforced. And in that sort of society, the power has transferred from the elite to the people to the elite, rather than essentially transferring from the elite to the individual to nobody in the future. Like, I mean, because I know that anarchy is a cycle and that eventually it's going to get supplanted by a state, but I'd like to think that anarchy could last for a very long time if the state was abolished. So if the state was abolished, there would be no new class of ruler animals deciding the rules to write on the barn.
I
There would
believe.
be
I'm sorry for interrupting. I believe that
go for it.
I do agree that anarchy is a form of like revolution. Revolution does not start unless anarchy is there.
Right. Well, unless the idea seems approachable to enough people.
Yeah. And but what of the Constitution of whenever our founding fathers implemented that, which yes, they did it in a very shady way, but if you look at how the history of what was happening during the time, they kind of had to. I think.
Whoa, apologies. Go ahead.
But like that according to the king was a form of anarchy. They were revolting against them. And
Well, I mean, yes, but in the sense of in the sense of a lack of rulership, they could have done much better, especially in the sense that they were like forming essentially a proto-minarchist society, and we all know that the smallest governments turn into the biggest tyrannies. So realistically speaking, they could have stuck with what they had, and it would have been great. But then the Whiskey Rebellion happened, and they quelled it. And then like various other rebellions happened, and they quelled it. And eventually, they created this notion in the people's minds that the king had just moved, and so there were a lot more people who were interested in a smaller government than what the founders had even wrought. So I would say that if people want the power, if people truly do, which they don't yet, I'm not saying they do. If people want the power, they're going to have to take it, and they're going to have to take it on an individual level. They can't expect other people to be their surrogates for them and fighting for them, and then say, "Oh, well, they betrayed me, so I guess like this whole thing is something I have to accept because it's better than Britain." because that's the fundamental thing about Animal Farm, is that it had a new class of rulers. They didn't just abolish them.
But humans can't live with it in a society where everyone says, well, I'll just ignore what everyone else is doing.
They don't need to. Anarchy isn't ignorance. No.
Yes.
You know, how much anarchist literature have you read? No, you wanted to interrupt me. How much anarchist literature have you read?
Read quite a bit.
Okay, guys.
Who's your favorite author?
Guys. Okay.
Yes, Bear Dog, go ahead.
What was
No,
yeah,
she was just trying to calm you guys down. I don't know why. I mean,
Thank
she
you,
yelled
Bear.
over the
this
show,
was
so-
that was gonna make for. I was getting into it. I was like, oh, I got to get my popcorn.
You're talking about a society, all right? When
I
saying,
asked you a question. Are you going to answer it?
I didn't hear your question. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, first off, if you don't interrupt me in the future, it'll make it easier for you to answer my questions. Which are the anarchist authors you've read?
I don't remember. It's been a while.
Okay, so you're talking about anarchist theory, but you don't remember what they wrote or who they were.
It's been a long time.
Okay, so let me break it down a few. I would suggest anybody interested, because this isn't a long enough stream for me to abolish the state, and I don't have any illusions that it is. And I have this problem pretty regularly where I'm trying to go against millennia of essentially indoctrination with some counter theory, and I need a piece of counter theory for each general piece of indoctrination. And so what I would recommend is that people read Rothbard, Spooner, Proudhon, and Kropotkin to get really a really good start on anarchist theory. And I would recommend that people read those people at least one of their books, because to get an idea of what anarchy would look like, you have to look at the competing notions and how they mesh, because it's not going to be one system because it's anarchy. Anarchy is going to be many different types of systems, and there's going to be competition, and that competition is going to bring out the best society. That's how that works.
Okay. If that was the case, why didn't it happen?
What do you mean, why didn't it happen?
In history, why hasn't it happened?
Maybe because numbers, which is why I asked you. So we're talking. You're interrupting me again.
Hold on. You said
You're
numbers.
interrupting me again, and I'm talking about the fact that historically states have always been the popular norm, and historically, because of that, states have huge popular support and huge armies, and it's going to take a huge amount of resistance in order to get past even that, much less to get to anarchy.
Okay, so if it's going to take large numbers to get past that, okay, in order to do that, all right, outside of a state environment, you need a leader.
Dude, I already went over that. Not all leaders are archonic.
What do you mean not all leaders are iconic?
Archonic.
Or archonic, okay.
I already went over what anarchy actually means. It's anarchos, it's anarchon, it's being against the monopolization of force,
But
the centralization. You interrupted me.
Because I heard
no,
I understand that. All right, but the thing that what you're misunderstanding with what I'm trying to say here is you're saying that the leader, all right, is somehow going to arise, because in order to survive on a battlefield, you need a leader.
The battlefield is in people's minds. It starts as an information war and a culture war, and then it ends up on the physical battlefield. If you can't get people's brains and egos on board, it's not going to change. So that's what I'm trying to start with. And there doesn't need to be an archonic figure to be a leader. That's a fundamental misunderstanding brought by the popularization of the statist indoctrination.
Okay, but here's the point I would like to bring up. So John Adams once said that if men were angels, we would need no government. Well, the simple fact is men are not angels. So what is your response to John Adams? I mean, he says you need a government to...
By the way.
Was that Madison? I thought it was Adams.
No.
I could Google it real quick to double check.
Well, either way, that idea that if men were angels, they wouldn't need government, essentially is a self-defeating concept. It's a performative contradiction because men aren't angels. I'm a cynical asshole. I don't believe that this will happen, much less happen in my lifetime. But if it does happen, it's not going to be like disturbed by the idea that men aren't angels. Men aren't angels, and that's why we shouldn't have a centralized power agency that they can join to force their will on other people. Fuck that.
Thank you. That would actually be my response to that statement myself. I just wanted to hear you say it. Okay. Rat.
Let me contribute my anger to it.
yeah, exactly. Well, no, Rat, you just joined us. What's your thoughts when it comes to anarchism? You know, you did see the title to anarchism. Rat, you did see the title of the stream before you joined, right?
Yeah, I watched for a couple seconds before I joined in. I thought to myself that I might not be the only leftist here today, so I don't know.
Well, I'm sort of like I'm not left or right in my mind. I see the left and right monikers as ways for the elites to divide us, but I would call you a comrade if you were truly interested in abolishing the state.
Well, I think you're a little bit further left than I would generally categorize myself at this moment. But okay, so my view on anarchism is that it could, in a very theoretical world, work for a little while, and then it basically just dissolves itself into a new order, which would probably revert back to some sort of sadism.
Well, okay, and here's my response to that, because I encountered that particular argument a lot. In fact, I've already encountered it on this stream. My argument in like opposition to that is generally that people, if this sort of thing did happen, and what I'm talking, by the way, is a global paradigm shift, people on a popular level would have to accept self-ownership. They would have to accept that they own themselves and that nobody else should be their master other than them. And in doing so, if that were the popular way of thinking, it would be very hard, especially from a decentralized power structure where everybody's armed and militant and capable of defending themselves. The general vibe would be very hard to crush with a state, and that's what the state would have to do. It would have to crush the popular resistance, and it would have to remove its popularity. So I would say that I don't think I'll see that in my lifetime, but at the same time, that's the way it would be if it did happen. It would manifest itself with a like hugely different culture than the one that we have now, and that culture I think would be very resistant to that sort of force.
Right, but it isn't.
I just don't know about that, because sooner or later some person will see that there is a power vacuum, and
maybe
he will seize the opportunity to take power.
Or maybe the power vacuum is filled by the individual, because the individual then has enough power to defend themselves.
Okay, but the problem is that it isn't just the idea that you are yourself, that you have self-ownership. That's not the only paradigm shift that has to change in humanity.
It's the specific base paradigm shift, yes, because
it isn't, and the reason is
because people don't believe that they own themselves, which is why they think they need state to determine what they do, to direct the course of their action, their neighbor's action, etc., because they want owners. They want the people over them. That's why. But
you also have to go and deny the other aspect, the opposite aspect of that, and that is mankind's nature to dominate.
Dude, mankind's nature to dominate exists on a hierarchical level in terms of verticality. What I'm talking about here is if we had some sort of decentralization, which wouldn't be something I'm denying, it's me saying that would need to happen first. Essentially, what we would be talking about is a fundamentally different culture, and you would have to reanalyze mankind entirely. That's one of the things that I don't like, is that people think all this, quote, science is settled, and they forget that science is truth without certainty, even political science. And if you had this sort of thing manifest, it would manifest with a dramatically different model and a dramatically different set of parameters, and you would have to re-experiment the whole fucking thing.
But you're denying human beings' natural instinct.
No, I'm not.
No,
I'm saying that it could be used differently.
The thing is that some people, some people just want someone more experienced or more able to lead them. Like,
they don't want to own themselves.
There are people that are
not
sheep,
necessarily
and there are
that
people
they
that
don't
are
want to
leaders,
own
plain and
themselves,
simple.
but okay, so listen, if I'm in a situation where I am supposed to take or to make some major decision, and I feel that someone else is more qualified to make that decision, then
Well, give me an example.
I would be more comfortable with that person. That doesn't mean that I don't believe in my own ownership of myself.
Well,
It just
give
means
me an
that
example there.
Okay, I can give you an example from a more mundane day-to-day sort of thing. Okay, so let's say you started a new job, and then you're asked to pull off some or to do some sorry to do some sorry, my English is failing me.
It's totally okay. You're doing
task.
fairly well. I can hear you've got that thick accent, so.
Why, thanks. No, you're asked to do some task, and you yourself feel that, oh, well, why can't John, which is not necessarily a superior to me, but he is more experienced in this specific field, why can't he do it?
All right, well, let me give you a response to that.
I at least know myself enough to know that.
See, the delegation of responsibilities voluntarily is different than the state saying that we are the only ones who could be responsible for this. So it's different to say that I know this guy who's better at this than I am, so I'll go with him, than it is to say this guy has been the guy who's been in charge, so this guy's the guy who's in charge. Or to say that this guy was appointed by the guy who was in charge, so he's in charge. That sort of structure, which lacks consent, which lacks the presupposition for self-ownership, is what has to change.
Well, okay, what about look at it from the perspective of a look at it from the perspective of a sort of anarchist world, whereas you think to yourself that, oh, I'm let's say you are leading, or that you are within a group within this anarchist world, and then you think to yourself that, oh, well, I shouldn't really lead. This other person should lead our specific group in order for us to thrive.
Well, let me tell you something, because we talked about that earlier, and I brought up that the origins and the root of the word anarchy and the idea thereof is anarchos. It's two Latin words, and well, actually, I think it might be Greek. If I might be fucking that up, it's Latin root. And the word started out to oppose centralized rulership, not all leaders.
Okay, but here's
but at some point, you're.
I want to point something
out.
If I get to. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Finish your.
At some point, let's say that your group within this anarchist world gets bigger and bigger, and new people join in, and they see how this leader is already sort of in control of your group.
Who says he's in control?
That person will seem like a strong leader, and at one point he becomes Negan from The Walking Dead.
Who says he's in control? And who says that we have a society who would surrender control instead of controlling themselves and voluntarily agreeing?
Well, no, my question.
But you don't realize that people don't really have a problem with being controlled as long as they
because they don't think they own themselves.
Well, they don't mind being controlled as long as they get the free handouts. But anyway, my question is this: what stops a demagogue from using anarchy and chaos as his path to power, and then you do end up with a more authoritarian state? What stops
All right,
that?
so first off, I'm not talking about flipping a switch. I'm not talking about a zombie pandemic that sweeps everything quickly and then gives rise to things like Negan. I'm talking about things like, you know, a gradualist change in culture, which would promote a gradualist change in the individual's idea of their ideal society. And that sort of thing gives the opportunity for this sort of person to have less power, less influence to begin with, much less of the ability to, like, you know, immediately rule everybody just because they have the barbed wire bat.
But how gradual are you talking? Are you talking 100
I don't
years,
think
1,000 years?
I'll see this in my lifetime. I don't know. I'd love to. I'd love to see that change happen more quickly, but to be honest, it's going to take a whole hell of a lot of moving against the gears and the wheels of this society, and the machine needs to come to a halt, but it's going to take a whole lot more people pulling themselves out of it, because realistically speaking, the system is controlled so easily because people have fundamentally decided to cede control, and they need to stop ceding control, and then the society will change with it. It's probably not going to happen in my lifetime. It might never happen. The sweet meteor of death might hit us all before it actually happens. I don't give a shit. I'm going to fight these motherfuckers anyway.
Okay,
I think you kind of were a bit lost in like the symbolism of what exactly Negan is, and in a sense, you and Negan would agree on a lot of things, because
yeah, of course, I'm not nice.
The reason why he, because also, do you have you read the comic?
I have not, and I've barely seen the show either. I've just seen enough episodes to know how Negan's compound works.
Yeah, if you want to, if you really want to look into it, you have to read the comic to really establish this character. But because he was a school teacher before he was, you know, like before he was doing all of this shit, and he like the symbolism of Negan. Whenever all of them are, we're all Negan. We're all individual. We're all ruling ourselves.
Has it ever occurred to you that somebody like a school teacher has been instructed by the state to make sure that every student knuckles under as more of a subject than like an individual? Has it ever occurred to you that somebody who switches from a school teacher role to a societal leader role might try to run their place like a classroom instead of being like an ethical person, considering adults versus adults?
Okay.
I think also this guy's waving, but
yeah, Derpy, go ahead, dude.
I just want to jump in. I need to leave. I basically just wanted to jump in and say hi and sort of see where this was going. Mad Dodge, I just want to tell you right here and right now, I'm not that. I hope you now realize that I'm not that far left.
Well, hey, feel free to. Feel free to check out my streams. It's youtube.com/Jeremiah Talks, and you can find a whole bunch of my philosophies. You might find that I'm left on some things and right on others, and that the left-right paradigm doesn't mean a whole lot.
Yeah,
yeah.
I believe that.
I'll try to. I'll try to check you out a little bit. Oh, sorry, I'm talking over people.
No worries.
I'll try to check you out a little bit.
Cool.
These streams are a lovely way for me to find new people to talk to. So I'll check you out at least.
Cool.
All right,
Thank
Rat,
you.
thank you.
And if you sub, I'll sub, by the way.
Thank you for swinging in, Rat. And if you subscribe to him, he'll sub back. He said. So go subscribe. You'll get another subscriber there.
Try and leave, Rat.
Cool.
But Rat, we still have that debate. DM me about it. Let's set up a day for it. Anyway, thank you for coming on, sir.
Rat don't love me.
Yeah, no problem. See you guys later.
Leave, then.
Goodbye, Mole.
I'm just joking. See you later, buddy. Good to see you, bro.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
All right. So, Derpy is your name on here, man. You were waving at the camera. You got something to say. I know you do.
Yes, actually, the first thing I wanted to say was when you mentioned the state and the power thing with free handouts bid. That's why I was going to put and say laziness is programmed. That level of laziness is programmed, multi-generational. Two, I have nothing. I have no argument against Jeremiah. Maybe I'm just a country dumbass from Louisiana, but I can't disagree with Jeremiah.
Well, hey, see, and there's the thing. People think that the South is quote dumb, but really, once you get closer to reading the opinions of and like the perspectives of people that you might not have seen eye to eye with, I believe firmly that the South got the raw end of the deal in the Civil War. So personally, I don't think that that we would have too strong a disagreement, and I think that the South has a whole lot of revolutionary in it.
I was going to agree with you until you said that, Jeremiah. You had most of it right, but then
you might want to watch out bringing up the Civil War on the Redeye. Me and MC will argue for the next hour and a half.
Oh my God.
Well, all I'm saying is that Lincoln didn't get shot soon enough.
World War III will start.
Well, yeah, John Wilkes Booth was 3 years too late. I've said that a lot, but hey.
It's funny he brought that up, considering I got mad a book about the Lincoln assassination as president.
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. He said I'm a far leftist, and I kind of am, but I'm also kind of a far right. I don't see eye to eye with any specific philosophy, and I see eye to eye with a lot of their basic tenets, which is why I want to see them compete.
Which means you're bipartisan.
No, I'm apartisan.
Yeah, but your theories rely upon everyone thinking like you, or the vast majority, not only thinking like you, but also being willing to step up at any point in time to defend themselves.
Dude, yeah, okay, but that's, like I said, I don't see this happening in my lifetime. It doesn't stop me from understanding how dumb it is. The fact that the lowest common denominator exists doesn't mean I have to sink to its level. What the fuck?
Right.
Well, you don't, but you should at least acknowledge the fact that not everyone's going to think like you or react like you.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be here.
Hey, Matt, are you going to introduce me to all these homos? Sapiens?
Well, yeah, this is Unholy Mole. He's a filthy atheist. That's pretty much all he talks about. But he's a good guy.
That's true. I like comic books, too.
Oh, okay. There is no God and comic books. Sorry, Mole. I forgot one.
Thank you. No, I was joking, but I run that. I know Vash, and I just met. Did I meet Derpy earlier today?
Yep.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
So the other new guest here is Jeremiah, and I'm actually really enjoying him and MC.
Hi, Jeremiah.
You're gonna have to come back again sometime.
I love your avatar. That's lovely.
Thanks.
So Mole, what do you think about anarchy? Do you think it leaves a power vacuum that is just waiting for the state to fill, or do you believe, as Jeremiah is stating, that if as we as a people mature to a point to where we will take ownership of ourselves, we will defend ourselves and each other, because you need the community to help keep everybody safe. You can't do it all on your own, or you can't work, you can't earn money. So
I think I agree with Jeremiah. I think that anarchy is technically the oldest form of, well, it's not a form of government, but it is the oldest.
Oldest form of societal structure?
Yes, it is. And it worked fine for thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
Well,
are you guys a bunch of fucking retards? Anarchy will never fucking work. Because there's always going to be a fucking alpha male who's going to take over everything.
Yeah, I was about to say, the guy with the big stick.
Exactly.
Well,
yes, this is my opinion.
See, and you're calling me a retard, but you're arguing with zero of what I said. So you can keep calling me a retard. I'm used to being called names by people who are less intelligent than me.
Yeah, you think that. If I look at your profile picture, it looks like you're a fucking hippie who don't know really jack shit about the world.
More
Well,
insults.
I mean, attack his ideas, not his.
Yeah.
Not.
What's his ad hoc?
I'm
I'm
used to
just
this.
drinking here, okay?
Go for his ideas. Don't ad hom him. That's not an
Right.
argument.
I'm drinking.
Yeah, Moondog gets a little angry when he drinks. It's okay. Don't take it to heart. But let's.
I'm fine. I'm used to this sort of thing, and I'm angry by default. So.
No, I mean,
I still think there will always be an alpha.
would anarchy
Shoot
work?
There
who
always
wants
will
to
be
follow.
alphas.
No, I don't think anarchy would work today. No.
No, it needs gradual change of culture
Yeah.
in order to be something that would like even adopt it to begin with, much
Right.
less sustain it.
Right. But there's just too much big government now for it to. They would. You're right. Whoever had the biggest stick would come in and take over.
Well, and that's the thing. In an anarchist paradigm, things would fundamentally shift. There would be the idea of like self-ownership, which is something that I constantly propound. There would be the idea of personal defense rather than hiring the government to do it, essentially. And then beyond that, there would be like a decentralization of power. There would no longer be the power monopoly, and people would have like big ass fucking guns that they could use to personally defend themselves.
That's why I bring up Negan again.
Yeah, okay. I don't care about Negan because what I'm talking about is a society that's different.
The symbol of that type of person, no matter what. Okay, all right. Whenever Cuba went to revolution, Che Guevara,
mass
then
murder.
there was Karl Marx. Which I believe that if he was still alive and that if his right hand didn't take over, then I believe that just like in Animal Farm, if Snowball still lived.
Yeah, but I'm not a Marxist.
Yeah,
but what I'm saying is like there's always going to be the more ambitious ones that are more bloodthirsty and that that will not stop until they get what they want.
If society as a whole was anarchy, then they would police themselves and they would stop that person.
Okay, so I have a question from the chat here. There would be no utilities, power, clean water, HVAC under anarchy. You guys prefer to live in a cave? Would you like to respond to that, Jeremiah?
So I'll respond to this directly by saying that the person involved is a lazy fuck if they wouldn't pay a bill without a government.
Right.
Well, that's my argument when it comes to roads. And then Domino's comes out recently, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll pave the roads." And I'm like, "Fuck yeah, Domino's! Fuck yeah!" Like everybody,
and they're manifesting a point that I've made for a really long time, which is that employers, the people that all these communists really want the wealth transferred from, employers would be massively incentivized to build the roads to make sure that their employees could get to work. Without that, and without the infrastructure that would make society work, there would be no jobs. There would be no wealth transfers. There would be no capital investments. The employers know this, and fundamentally, in a capital society, and one where people could like own themselves and their property without being stolen from, fundamentally you got a different paradigm, and the employers would probably have to pick up the slack in some of these ways that the government has been spending into the future with. Like, the government doesn't have like solvent currency. The government has like debt notes that they're passing on to future generations. They're shackling the unborn to their choices. And that's fundamentally unethical, but it's also untenable, unstable, and insolvent. And it means that they can be hugely unaccountable to any sort of decisions that they're making, much less basic infrastructure maintenance. If we had a society where people could like operate on a voluntary level, that sort of thing would necessarily cease in the volume that it is, and society would probably, based on these sorts of metrics, be better maintained.
Sounds like a pure communist country.
No,
everybody helps each other.
Like, if there's employers, it's not communism anyway. How does it sound like shit to you? You've had too much to drink.
The true form is communism is everybody helping each other.
Okay.
With big, like Domino's doing with the roads, as a free market society that's helping everything.
Yeah, okay, but Domino's isn't acting in a communist fashion, and I'm saying that this scales.
It's free market.
I'm saying that this scales.
Can we agree that the free market definition versus what's actually being implemented in our government?
We do not have a free market right now.
Things.
Yeah, absolutely, we do not have a free market. But
China has more free market than America does.
Real quick, and then you can go, Derpy. I was just going to say, I get accused with the roads thing all the time. I'm not even an anarchist. I'm just a libertarian. But who will build the roads? Well, Domino's is building the goddamn roads. They're fixing them. And the state of Oregon just did a fucking... The state of Oregon just did a transit tax. No, it's bullshit. The state of Oregon just did a fucking transit tax. They're now taxing our buses, our cabs, our trains, everything. But they don't want you to drive anywhere because, you know, bad for the planet. Okay, so now my bus ticket went from $350 to $550. Why? Oh, wow. For the roads? For the roads? I thought you already had money to fund the roads. I thought the lottery system was paying for the goddamn roads. I mean, this shit is fucking irritating the fuck out of me. Maybe we do need a little chaos and anarchy. Maybe we do need to root out, you know, and refresh the tree of liberty from time to time.
No,
with the blood of patriots.
We need to go back to the 1950s where everybody actually helped each other before the hippies came along. That's why all the shit went downhill.
Yeah, well, I do have. You can say that, but the hippies wouldn't be able to exist in the way that they do if there wasn't, you know, restrictions on people's ability to discriminate with the use of their private property. So, whatever.
Yeah.
Honestly, that
what
was
do you mean?
true.
What do you mean by hippies
became hippies because they wanted to do drugs?
People should be able to refuse service to anyone on their own property, and in doing they would be able. And in doing so, they would be able to manage a lot of these sorts of things. Publicizing goods and services is the reason that these sorts of things get out of hand the way they are. Like personal private property management is vastly different to the state.
Yes.
Well, and Derpy, I cut you off, dude. Go ahead now, if you still remember what you were saying.
That was a dose of personal karma, so I fully accept it. Don't ask why I said that. That's too long of an elaboration. But about the free market versus right now. Yeah, technically we are a plutocracy of corporate interest-controlled corporate state capitalism, the opposite of a free market. All we're needing now is to make a more mixed economy and for the corporate interest in government to merge in order to do a 180 flip and become authoritarian state. No, corporate state eventually. That's all.
We're a bit of an oligarchy too.
More of a
it's an oligarchy and plutocracy that is of corporate interest. Technically, that's what we have, and they control it. The corporate state crony capitalism. So all they got to do is expand. The government continue to expand, and then eventually merge and then form a totalitarian mixed economy authoritarian. Say, hey, you do what we say. Fuck your facts. Fuck you, or we're gonna fuck you over if we deem you unworthy. That's all we're waiting for is for them to grow, merge, form that, and then 180 flip. The other thing, can I just propose a little idea, an anarchist idea? See what you think of, Jeremiah. This is just an idea, a combination of ideas.
Yeah.
Because I read into Murray Rothbard from time to time. It's a nice little hobby. And I also take influence from Noam Chomsky as well, in spite of the fact we highly disagree. And the Ludwig von Mises book about socialism.
You see, this is why I don't like people calling themselves stupid because they're from the South. The fact that you read this shit means that you're not.
Right.
South rise again.
You talk about Noam Chomsky, the linguist?
Well, I mean, I want to hear what he has to ask me though, but
he's anarchist, but he's of the a lot of people consider far left. He's a syndicalist. I disagree with the syndicalism because Ludwig von Mises made a good few refutations about that in page 270 to the top half of 275 of his book Socialism, as sociological and economic analysis or whatever. But this is something I've thought of. Now, in his alternative to capitalism video, I'm actually going to do a 4-part little tackling of that. eventually myself. I'm actually working on editing the first couple episodes I did. But
Very cool.
he conflated syndicalism, which didn't become written formally until the very late 19th century, at the very beginning of it. But maybe if we had like an anarcho-capitalist society that had like the self ownership, emphasis on self ownership and no monopoly of power, like Jeremiah was talking about, also involved contractual law, other anarchist societal law concepts that could work with it, laissez-faire economics, truly laissez-faire economics, voluntary social communes in certain places if you want, voluntary labor unions, guilds, and voluntary syndicates as long as they can't corporatize.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying. All those things would compete with one another. It'd be and I phrase it this way. I phrase it three ways. I phrase it anarcho-coalitionism, which is basically like a militant version of panarchy. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but like I created this term because I wanted to make sure that we could form a coalition. Go ahead.
Kind of see this is technically. Because I looked into what centrism was about, and I said, well, it's about moderation, reasonable middle grounds, and compromise. So I thought, why not make a compromise from these two far different spectrums? And this is the idea I hypothesized here, this type of anarchist society here. And, if certain interests weren't so against it, just want to do a little mention a few pieces of technology we've developed as of late, but they're not getting the attention they need. You've ever heard of the gravity battery system?
I haven't.
I will hit me up with Discord if you have Discord or whatever. I will DM you the links to the shit. If you manage to do that and the 3D solar towers, you can replace the solar panel fields and use less than half of the land to make the same amount of stored power or more. You can also fortify these against nuclear EMPs and solar flares with shielding if you want to install it, if you want to create it. Another thing you possibly could do would, when you have the system set up, you can eventually store and generate massive amounts of power, and it would make solar energy drastically cheaper over time because the storage medium is now there. And now you got these 3D solar towers that capture a hell of a lot more than goddamn solar panels. It's a green energy that can eventually be made cheap if it was invested in interest. If the interest would actually, if there wasn't such corporate bullshit going on, there wasn't so much vest against it, and people weren't so. I'm not going to say idiotic. That would be wrong. More like duped or misled.
Well,
or
I mean, they're cowed into submission. They're tax cattle.
Yeah, they're tax cattle, touted to submission and misinformed or kept away from.
Yeah.
This kind of green technology, hell, we wouldn't even have to worry about nuclear fusion. We can still pursue it if we want to, but we got this shit. With this combination of technologies, the world could go solar completely. We're importing the high-speed rail technology from Spain. That's not natural. Doing it ourselves would be more natural. Ordering the shit from China, of all places, when they should be using it themselves, since we have the materials to create over here and eventually improve recycling of them.
Or how about this? If we weren't in the Middle East, well, the U.S. anyway, the U.S. government, if the U.S. government wasn't in the Middle East protecting the lithium and oil interests that are, basically in fields owned by Chinese interests anyway, they wouldn't have the sort of stranglehold that they do on our markets and economy.
Yep, that's right. Exactly. And you would not have the neocon science denialism like, okay, you might, some people think global warming is fake, but the scientists have tested
global warming is fake
independently, and there is a 99. It's no longer a 97% because it's now a 99.94% due to independent analysis of the over 54,000. 195 studies from 1991 to 2015, and James L. Powell did an analysis of them all, and they found out of all of those, I think, what was it, 20-something, 30-something said it was false. And this is all independent science research papers. Yeah, I get it. It's taxation paid, but who else is going to pay them to keep their equipment updated, right?
Oh, well, listen, I'm not going to say that the Earth is flat because the government says it isn't. So, I mean, the sky isn't going to turn green just because they say it's blue. I'm not opposed to, like, all the things government says because that'd be fucking dumb. But I am opposed to, like, their centralization of power. But go ahead.
Right.
Yes.
It's more propaganda. The recent anti-science trends are are just a recent addition of the tobacco and the fossil industry since the 1950s, and you can actually find records of this shit online. You have to dig a little while, but
yeah, no. When it comes to the global warming thing, though, I don't want to get too sidetracked into today's topic.
Right.
But
I'm just giving an example, but.
Well, no, I do disagree with you, though. Even the person that created the National Weather Service came out about 5-10 years ago, right at the height of the global warming hysteria, and said, no, this isn't necessarily true. And then you had a lot of those papers that you just quoted were actually skewed numbers, and that came out as well, but people were still quoting the facts stated in said paper. So I don't buy it, and I really don't buy it when they come out saying, hey, we want carbon credits. We want to tax everything that uses carbon. Well, that's everything under the sun.
That's alarmism. I don't agree with alarmism. I don't disagree with the climatologists themselves, but I disagree with the alarmism that was proposed because carbon tax credits and all this other, it's bullshit. It's obviously bullshit. Shane Killian actually did a quickie video about nuclear power, and they actually mentioned this very same thing. So I agree with with you on the alarmism and stuff. No, it should be a series of concern and to study into, but not the alarmism on.
Oh, yeah, Mole, I just, like I wrote you in the side chat, I keep hearing a car or something, and you're bleeding.
It's a lawnmower, brother. I think my neighbor's mowing. So I'll stay as much as I can.
Well, no, he was talking, and then all I could hear is like a car, or I guess a mower, you said. So, yeah, I muted you out of...
no worries, man. I that's fine. I'm not trying to...
Let's step forward to the next topic, revolution. Was the American Revolution justified to begin with?
Yes, it was justified because of the
Any
taxes.
revolution was justified.
Any revolution. That includes the French, the Chinese, the Russian? I mean...
Yeah, sure, because all the systems have been gradually being refined, and typically, any revolution is going to shake up the system and force it to adapt to a new paradigm. And that's what I want to see. I want to see, like, a gradual shift to new paradigms. So, like, I'm going to say that they were justified in terms of their ability to move people forward and not stay where they were, because historically people have sucked.
I can argue about the Chinese Revolution. It was not really justified.
I get where he's coming from. Yes, I believe he's right that it shakes things up, but some revolutions went about it the wrong way.
Well, yeah, I think there's some revolutions, were better than others, i.e. the American Revolution compared to, I don't know, the French Revolution that happened 10 years later. We didn't chop a bunch of people's heads off. They did.
Well, right, but of course, not all the people in the French Revolution chopped people's heads off. It's good to remember that not to make like sweeping generalizations.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even in the American Revolution, it was basically like a small group of people, just like the Tea Party. It was a small group of people that got drunk at a bar and decided to do something while yelling out "Viva Revolution," basically. I mean, in their own little way.
Are you talking about the American Tea Party?
Yeah.
Yeah, the American Tea Party was because of the tea tax that was implemented on the Americans.
Yeah, but it did start at a bar.
Well,
a bunch of people that ranted, got drunk, got sloshed, and then decided to do it.
And their damn tax, dumped all the damn tea.
Right.
Yep. That's pretty much how it happened.
Well, no, okay. So I brought up the French cutting off heads. Then I need to be fair. During the American Revolution, we took British ship captains. All they were doing was delivering their tea. That's what they were set there to do. They were doing their job. That's like taking the postal worker and tar and feathering him because he's delivering your mail. I mean,
the messenger kind of thing.
yeah, it wasn't necessarily fair or right either. And you laugh when you say, "Oh, he got tar and feathered." No, that is
That
a bucket
hurts.
of hot fucking tar being dumped all over your naked body, and then you're getting feathers thrown into the fucking wound.
It wasn't all about that. I mean, it was. I mean, we were tired of taxation without representation.
Well, they
Well,
were.
There was
I meant us as in Americans.
a small group was.
Yeah.
Well,
Rich
because I'm tired of taxation at all. I don't give a fuck if it represents me.
Right.
The
Hey,
rich.
taxation helps me get paid, okay?
Hey,
The
taxation
rich.
is theft, okay?
The rich
It
of
helps
America.
people like me get paid, okay?
The rich
I
of
defend your freedom.
America
Say shit like this.
were being paid. Were being like the rich of America, the farm owners and stuff. During that time, they were the rich. They didn't necessarily like being taxed, and they were being taxed much less than what we are today.
Yeah.
Significantly less,
And in less sector.
They started a war over it. Well, I believe that right now what we're seeing in America is it's a slow shake to that. I believe that we might go into possibly a civil war. We're actually fighting in a way an invisible civil war currently.
Now,
And it's three ways too, not just two.
What would the Civil War be about? Non-gun people versus gun people? It'll end within a day.
It would be very complex. If we had a civil war today, there would be a lot of issues that they would fight over.
It'd be more of an economic civil war than anything else.
Yeah, and I think that it wouldn't be like as a north-south divide kind of thing. I mean, it could be household to household. I mean, like one city against another city. It wouldn't be as clear cut as north versus south.
Well, no, MC repeatedly says if we have another civil war, it would be this
urban versus rural.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with them. And I live in the middle of the Cascades, so you already know what side I'd be on. Not to mention I already own a Confederate flag. I'm ready.
Right, we know, Matt. We know.
I own a few of them back at my parents' house.
I don't own any of those sorts of flags. In fact, I think the only flag I had was an American flag, and I think I got rid of that maybe a year or two ago.
I wear American flag every day I go to work.
Well, I love flags. I collect them. I have the United States flag on the porch. I have two Confederate flags. I have the Confederate national flag.
Well, hey, you should go to my T-shirt store. I sell a flag dedicated to Heemeyer, the guy who built the Killdozer, and it says "Don't block my driveway."
Nice. Maybe I'll add that one to my collection. I'll check it out.
That's beautiful.
I think about just getting a giant pair, like a pair of boxers, and flying them as a flag, and just have a tag to them. It says, "Don't fuck with me."
Right.
You really are from Louisiana.
Is that the new version of "Don't Tread on Me" kind of thing?
I was wanting to buy an AR-15 and just have a sign above it that says "Don't do it."
See, and the modern version of "Don't Tread on Me" is BTF. What is it? BTF STTG. It's burn the fucking system to the ground.
Well, I mean, also with that, we also seem to have like. Have you ever noticed that if you go to a Marilyn Manson concert, Marilyn Manson, as you know, is a very, very individualistic person.
He does whatever to shock the crowd.
Well, I mean, the original ideas of it was think for yourself, think individually. You know, he was. Would you agree with that, Jeremiah?
Oh well, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
and part of that is the satanic rules of the earth, which everybody should read.
Which, but the thing is if you look at it, it's the non-conformity, but they all conform, and then you see them all like wear the same thing, and they all act the same way. So,
well, but see, that's first off, that's sort of a misnomer, because if we're talking specifically, there's a difference between enforced conformity and voluntarily joining a group. If I become a firefighter and I look like all the other firefighters, it doesn't mean that they forced me to. It means that I don't want to burn to death. There's a separation between looking the same and being the same that I think would be helpful to distinguish here.
Yeah.
Dress up like a firefighter to look like other firefighters. That means you are willing to risk your life to save people in the fire. And you're in special equipment.
Okay. I don't know how that goes against what I said.
That's what I've heard from it.
Okay.
Yeah, he was just reevaluating, so as a confirmation.
Okay.
But don't you think when you make a peaceful revolution impossible, you make a violent revolution inevitable?
Yep.
Do you think the culture clash going on in America right now really will devolve into, as everybody's saying, a second civil war? I don't believe
so.
the first, but anyway, that's.
I think that there's going to be like, and this is my complete like. It's just my vibes on this situation. It's just my assumptions based on what I know of global politics and what's going on. Specifically, anybody who hasn't looked into them should look into the Bilderberg group. From my current knowledge, I would assume that there's not going to be a civil war and that all this tension is going to be offset onto some foreign nation, likely China and Russia, to essentially take all the energy that's built up against this government and redirect it against that. I'm thinking that there will be some dramatically worse event than 9/11 was, and that it'll be used and exploited for quite some time as a way to justify war, and people will spend all their energy on that. Plus, it'll give Trump 4 more years. So,
I actually.
Well, I'm never going to vote for Trump for another 4 years. I'll vote for independent.
I actually believe this may be a dream, and it may be a thing that I think that might happen. It might not happen now, like within the next 4 years, but it seems to be leading to it. And I think that, and I hope that it happens the way that I'm going to say. I think that eventually people currently, we are realizing, or the public at large is realizing how Fox and the news medias are starting to manipulate everything in smoke screens and stuff like that. And to the Bilderberg group, when you mention that, I say, have you researched Promise? It doesn't have an E.
wait, okay, so what specific promise are you talking about? Is that a brand name?
It's Promise without an E. It's a group.
Oh, no, I haven't.
Okay. Have you ever heard of Citizen 4?
Yes.
Okay. Promise was before Citizen 4. It was
Okay.
it was before that. There's a lot of stuff into that. So what I'm thinking that is that people like Edward Snowden and the whistleblowers that have actually given this QAnon is another good one. Like all of these people are rising up and slowly helping by making themselves into a more trustworthy type of media and help influence the people to realize that we aren't really the sheep.
Well,
they are, and we can be. We're very savage if we need to be.
And I really hope that's true, but I see rivers of blood and years of darkness in the future. I'm
yes,
not positive or
yes.
optimistic.
And there is there is no way that this can't result in bloodshed because of how fierce. I mean, just
especially
look
since
at
the
Black
Georgia
Lives Matter.
Guidestones are pretty descriptive of the elite skulls. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
Look at the Black Lives Matter movement. Like, one of the things that I have that I say against it is how, you know, yeah, that person that was shot, that was sad, but why not go, if you guys were really looking for justice on that, then why not go to that cop's doorstep and actually, you know, talk to him, get justice there if you're going to do it? Why blow up this fucking mom and pop shop and
see here's my thing with that, and I hope I'm not treading on you here with that interruption, but
no.
My thing on that is that there's plenty of social energy against the system as it stands, and realistically speaking, you can't redirect that toward the state the way it is from the state's perspective. You can't demand that they change because they fucking won't. What we like,
I'm talking about like an anarchical justice. Like,
no,
they just walk up and just fucking do it.
And what I'm saying is you can't do that either yet, because there's not enough popular support and you would get crushed. And then they would have new reasons to say that this is the sort of thing, this is the sort of like war on cops that we're dealing with, even though that's a bullshit phrase for a bullshit mentality.
I would just say that at least their actions would be justified, is what I'm saying.
Well, yes, but what I'm saying is that, like, if they are going to use that energy, I would rather that they use that energy as a way to build a new society so that this shit doesn't happen again. Deterrence isn't good enough for cops. Cops will just use that as an excuse to say that there's a war, and they'll, like, quote, fight the war, aka oppress citizens harder because of it. You can't ask your warden for the keys to your cell, and ultimately that's what these people are doing with BLM. That's my criticism. My criticism is that they're not radical enough.
I believe that the fact that if you're saying that they're asking for the keys to their cell, and that's a very, very good symbol. That's a very good metaphor. Sorry, wrong word. But I corrected it. It's a very good metaphor, but I believe that are they not doing that with the corrupt court system that we have now?
Wait. Okay, so I'm not sure. Like,
I mean, in a
they're
way.
asking. They're definitely doing that. They're doing that by voting, by begging politicians to change, by using a corrupt court system and a corrupt Senate, and Congress. They're using corrupt systems created by their masters to beg for freedom, and it's not going to work. And I'm not saying that it wouldn't be better if they did what you're suggesting. I'm saying that it's not enough.
Oh no, I'm not saying that it would be enough to change the form of government.
Yeah.
Never trust a politician who has not worked a day in his life.
What?
Never trust a politician who never worked a job in a day in his life.
Yeah, okay, I can agree to that, but I also think never trust a politician because they're thieves and they steal for their job.
Honestly, when I hit the age, I will be running for president.
Well,
because my background, I can actually relate to a lot of these poor communities.
Okay.
Well, I want to go back.
I'm getting off subject, so.
Well, I want to go.
It's more of a bureaucracy, though. You have to relate to the rich as well.
I want to go backwards
the rich,
a little bit.
It's the poor who actually likes you in, because it's the more poor people out there than there are rich.
Then we would also see Bernie Sanders against Trump, but we didn't see that.
I wish that would happen.
That's because he
ran. Bernie Sanders, I would regret that.
That's because he went through the DNC, which was a stupid move. He could have ran as an independent and probably made the debate stage.
No, he should have gone green.
Only reason why he went Democratic, just so he can get the platform stage that if you're not Republican or Democrat, you don't get. That's the one thing about the presidential election.
He would have been like Buchanan. He would have made the debate stage just for the socialist support he had. But no, I want to go back. You were talking about police brutality a little bit and Black Lives Matter. Well, I don't want to really touch upon Black Lives Matter, but the police brutality. Did you guys see the body cam footage from Phoenix, Arizona, when that man in nothing but a t-shirt and basketball shorts was shot dead after being told by the cops to put his leg this way, that way, crawl
that
to
was
me.
that
I did
that
a
was in
stream
the
where we
hotel.
yeah, I did a stream. We showed that live on air. I should probably lock that stream now and put it for Patreon only. Actually, with YouTube's new rules, I better do that after the show. But no, that was completely
So if you guys want to see it, go
ridiculous,
see
and that
him.
was murder. That was murder, and you don't see white people rioting in the streets over it.
But they
The one thing I
No.
can argue about that, you don't know what the police been told when they're getting that person.
I don't
care.
give a
If
fuck
they're
what they
told-
were
honestly,
told.
if
He
they're-
was unarmed. He was unarmed. He
Honestly,
can't
if you was
hurt
told
them.
he was armed and dangerous, you don't know
He's
he has an
armed?
extra gun on
Okay,
him.
he was armed with a rifle. He's wearing basketball shorts and a t-shirt. You
But
can't
you don't-
conceal
honestly,
a
you
rifle,
don't-
sir. Dude,
So-
Hey guys,
so-
can I interrupt you just for a second? I
Conceal
got called on the phone. I'm gonna go to my aunt's house. I'll be back shortly. Unless y'all, but I will be back as soon as I can. I'm gonna mute myself and turn my camera off. Sorry about the interruption. Just to let you know.
okay, well, thank you.
And
Yeah,
you're
if you're going to a dangerous situation, you don't know what the person is capability of.
I don't
They
care.
might be hiding a
He's
small
crawling
pistol, a
on the
cricket.
fucking ground. I don't
He might be
care.
hiding a cricket in his underwear. They
I
don't
don't
know
care.
that. They just know what the
I
information
don't
they're told.
care.
The man that shot him had, what was written on the dust jacket
You're
of that?
fucked.
Yeah, you're fucked. Written on his gun. He is a officer of the peace, supposedly. There is 3 cops or more in that hallway. They had just watched the woman crawl and fall over. They didn't shoot her 3 times square in the fucking, center mass. No, he accidentally slips, moves his hand, and bam, 3 center
No, he
mass.
moved his hand to pick up his pants because he was crying. Yeah, I seen the footage video, but we don't know what the information the cops were given.
I don't
That's
care.
the thing about that. What the cops been given, the information that they was given is crucial to the court case. And
It's
trust me,
I-
it is
I will-
crucial.
to a reasonable analysis of the situation.
If I go
No,
to Iraq
they
and I get
murdered him.
crucial information about somebody,
This
often
isn't
actually-
Iraq. There's different
it's
laws
sec-
and different
it's
standards.
Same standards.
No.
If you're giving information
No.
about someone,
No, not exact same
that's the only
standards.
information about that person you know.
You know,
Even
zero
until
Middle
then.
East work. If
No,
you think that
wait a
there's
minute, though.
the same thing as Middle East work.
Well, wait a minute, though. If you are arrested standing over, okay, let's say I murdered my wife. I'm caught standing over her with the bloody butcher knife. I'm still innocent until proven guilty.
Yes.
In other words, you can't shoot me 3 times center mass for no goddamn reason. I mean, come on, man.
Okay, when someone's armed, when you've been told someone's armed and dangerous, you don't know their action is going to be.
He had a fucking
You don't-
BB gun in his room. That's
They
it.
didn't know that.
It wasn't. It
until
wasn't a
they
BB gun.
entered
It was a
room.
pest control rifle. He was doing his job.
But they didn't know that until afterwards.
I don't give a shit.
You
If
should
their
give a
default
shit.
is no,
What-
if their
before,
default is murder, if
during,
their
and
default is
after
murder,
the
then they are not
actuation
doing a
determines
good job
everything.
of preserving any peace, and they shouldn't keep their job.
So
I
it's-
agree
so
with
you go-
Jeremiah, but I also do see what the moon dance, I think is the name.
Moondog.
Moondog. Yeah.
The moon dog. Okay, sorry, I didn't see the icon. All I saw was the words, and I was like, I gotta, but I can see what Moon's thought is in the fact that yes, there are moments when with streamers and people dealing with SWATs. There are moments that they are given the thought of okay, these people might have this, these people might have that, and they do go in there and
They're only running on information that they've been told.
That is true, but there are also what Jeremiah is saying is also correct in the fact that there are these people that use that uniform as a I personally am a part of the BDSM community. I'm a dom, but I separate myself from role I play because that's there, and then I actually do, you know, the rest of my life type of thing. But it's this like they're somehow regressed mentally, that they just want to have power over somebody. And you see both of them, both sides of the police force.
Yeah, I'm not. I will not disagree that how some people use the badge as power.
Oh yeah, a lot.
But honestly, in steps to lethal force, I mean, there's like 7 steps before you can use lethal force.
Yeah.
Only way you can skip those 7 steps if you truly feel you and your comrades are in danger.
And they weren't. I saw the footage. I watched
I've seen
it.
the
They
footage
were not
too.
in
I
danger.
studied it.
They were
You're
not
letting him
in danger.
interrupt you an awful lot, by the way. I'm just gonna say that, Doge.
Oh, I'm pretty liberal when it comes to how I run the stream. I try to give everybody their piece, and I do get talked over a little bit, but I get my words in there.
Okay.
But
yeah,
no,
I mean, there's zero excuse for the way Shaver was treated. Zero. Because he was unarmed, and even if he was armed, he was not in a position to use any sort of weapon. Until you see a weapon, you should not fear for your life. And if you do, you're a fucking pussy.
You shouldn't have
It's
the
not like that. It's the actions of the person you're commanding.
You should be in a different line
You
of
tell them
work.
to crawl your hands to your knees and you reach back. Just
Okay,
the pants.
you know
don't
what?
know what's behind.
No,
what they're
now I'm
grabbing
going to cut you off. Now I'm going to cut you off. All right.
Okay.
I've been arrested before. I've been arrested in a felony stop. You know what they had me do? Lay flat on the ground, hands out, and then they took my hands and they cuffed me. Okay. Then they lifted me up and they searched me for a weapon. They did not do this here. This was the hokey pokey. You get 3 in the chest. That's what this was. It was bullshit. And I'm still mad. That's the grossest thing I've ever seen in my life. The way they murdered that man.
Who got tasered,
it was a
like,
fucking
who was sitting
bother.
on the sidewalk recently? What about that guy?
I haven't seen that. Would you like to elaborate a little bit?
He was sitting down. He was sitting down on the sidewalk. He was sitting down on the sidewalk, and he was complying entirely with officers. And then, like, basically, they tased him out of nowhere. He was not a threat. He was just sitting there, and I think multiple cops tased him at once as well. But I know one of them just tased him out of nowhere, and I think the other ones just went with it because blue line.
Well, no, and there is a culture within the police departments, okay? There's a culture where we protect our own. That is why how many cops in the New York Police Department were sold out to the mob? How many still are? You'll never know because they won't talk. They'll transfer the cop before they fire him if they catch any indiscretion. And then the cop is going to go be corrupt somewhere else. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's this culture where don't ask, don't tell, or we protect our own. It's all that type of shit. Like, okay, the man who killed Schaefer, he didn't go to jail. He just got fired. And he got fired before the cam footage came out. He got fired for being a corrupt cop before the cam footage came out. Now, hindsight is 2020. Okay, Mole, you're going Darth Vader, dude. I'm muting you real quick. Sorry, Vader. But 40 is my 40 ounce is my co-host. He's in the chat, and he wrote, hindsight is 2020. Dodge, you're right. Hindsight is 2020. But this police department knew about his corruption. They had many cases on file of him overstepping the bounds of the law, and they still put him out on a case where there might be somebody with a weapon, an armed man in a hotel. Is that the best guy to send to that job? The guy with, you're fucked written on his fucking gun?
It might be the best person, but he might be the closest person that they called in.
Okay, here's the fundamental fucking thing, yo. We live in a country, theoretically, with, like, universal protections for firearm owners, and then, theoretically, one person has one gun, and you send in, basically, a SWAT team to control this person. This is not the America that the founders wanted. Even if you want to go all patriotic and say that we should take the side of the state, this is not the side that the founders would want us to take. This is overt tyranny where the cops can shoot somebody dead who did not possess a weapon, and even if he did, would not have been a threat because he was on the fucking ground. And realistically, this is not the sort of thing that the Constitution supports, much less endorses, much less encourages. So even if you want to go to that level, you're fucking wrong in terms of, like, intent, in terms of capability for the average person to defend themselves. They should be equally matched to the government.
Well, no, and if a police officer is going to get all hyperventilating and freak out over a gun, what the fuck are they going to do in my state? We have open carry, okay? I've walked straight down my small town with a shotgun on my back, all right? I mean, really, what are they going to do then? We have open carry.
My state, you can open carry without permits.
Well, are they going to freak the fuck out every time they see somebody actually exercising their right? I mean, when did the police become so fucking paranoid and scared that they react worse than a gangbanger does? I don't get it.
It's when they're getting executed out of nowhere. That's when the paranoia comes in.
When are cops getting executed? How many cops are executed versus how many citizens they kill?
They rather focus on the police killing people than the people killing the police.
How many police are dying a year?
Honestly, I'll do the research. I'll tell you.
Because I've done the research, and it's a factor of 10 to 1 in terms of total numbers. Policing's a relatively safe job compared to things like logging, crab fishing, coal mining, even military work. And those people have drones. Cops are fucking pussies.
Well, no, and to be fair, Moondog is in the military.
Yes.
He mentioned that a little bit before, but yes, he is a military man. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
That means, I mentioned Iraq, that was what I was saying. The only information that we know is what we've been told. Until that point, we know different. We're just going on the information that we're known.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. When police officers went in that hotel, they don't know anything else besides what they're told. So when that person reached back to pull up his pants, they didn't know he was grabbing a gun.
It doesn't matter. Not knowing should be the standard for not doing shit.
Yeah, you should. Okay, when you sign up to be a police officer or Moondog, I've never been in the military, so I'm hoping
Honestly, I did study for the
hoping,
police program. I did try to become a police officer. First time.
Okay, I hope I don't offend you. I'm not trying to, but you sign up to risk your life. That's what you do. And if that means you wait a second to see an actual weapon before you discharge, then that's what you do. Why? Because you're supposed to have the moral high ground. That's why we gave you the badge.
Yeah, the split second of deciding threat or non-threat. Of switch to bang bang.
You have your fucking bang bang finger on the bang bang trigger, and you've got
but the weapons
multiple
don't say
cops,
those
and you got hold on, and you got multiple cops on the same person. You've got multiple cops with huge guns on the same person, and you're telling me that this particular case, where this guy had obviously no bulge in his pants and was obviously just reaching for his shorts from obvious body cam footage, you're saying that this particular case is a good thing to keep in mind when talking about police brutality in general, or that this case is something where the cops are the ones who should be sided with, when this guy could not have harmed one of them in the amount of time that he had between the people pointing guns at him with their fingers on the trigger and bang bang?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, when it comes to going with the individuals, you don't know how fast they can draw a gun out and shoot the trigger.
He was on the ground. I know that most people aren't James fucking Bond.
Not everybody James Bond, but you have to act like every person is a threat and you can pull out a gun and shoot within seconds. You have to act like everybody's like that. Because you don't really know what the person is truly like.
Okay, but if your job is to serve and protect, you don't necessarily know that this guy did anything wrong because they don't know that, and he actually didn't. So they definitely don't know. I don't believe that you put 3 rounds center mass. I don't believe that this really was the expected result from anybody. Not even, the other officers there. I'm pretty sure they were surprised once he discharged.
I'm not going to defend his actions, but I'm saying only thing they know, like I'm going to repeat myself. Only thing they know is what's been told. What he done, he could have thought it was a threat and shot him. Until after they searched him, realized he wasn't a threat. Until that point, they didn't really know if he had another gun they could easily reach for.
It doesn't matter.
Studying the footage, yeah, he's pulling up his shorts. He discharged for no reason. But that moment in time, when your adrenaline's flowing, you have to make that decision. I'm pretty sure a lot of people in this chat and here talking with us and people actually typing, if you're facing that situation, I'm sure 50% will actually shoot if you're faced with that situation.
I don't care. If I'm faced with the situation, first off, if I'm faced with this situation, I'm going to fucking jail at the very least for goddamn manslaughter. So don't compare this to me when this is the royal class we're talking about. So either way, I'm fucked in this situation. And in terms of these cops, if you don't see a weapon, you shouldn't fire. This is the standard with Dale Brown's Vipers in Detroit. This is the standard with police in other departments all around the fucking world. But this police force is militarized. I would advise reading Radley Balco's Rise of the Warrior Cop.
I do agree that they are becoming more militarized, but also if you think about crime and gangs are getting more black weapons from the black market, making themselves militarized. So they pretty much have to be one step
Most people
above.
are not militarized, and it's not an accurate comparison when I don't have a bulletproof vest on, but rather basketball shorts.
Yeah, that's true. But the hindsight is you have to think the way they're thinking.
Well, no, and to connect this back to
that guy was crying on the ground. He was thinking, "Don't fucking shoot me."
Yes, he was crying. He was crying. But when a police officer tells you just crawl on hands and knees, and you want to pick up your shorts, you ask
He was giving conflicting goddamn commands. Don't make it seem like he was giving simple orders. And don't suck the boot.
It was simple orders.
And don't suck the boot by claiming that the cop who feared for his life because the guy who reached for his waistband is someone who you should take the side of.
You don't know
when the guy is already having guns trained on him. I mean, realistically, I love that protest sign where the woman's like, we live in a world where police are like shooting dogs because they fear for their life, but I have to remain calm with a gun in my face. Fuck that. That's servile bullshit. The founders hate you. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like, I do agree that that they are, like, for one, the cops that actually do their job and that actually are, for the citizens. Why was this person using lethal force in the first place? Like, could he have not had a taser? Could he have not had one at that time? Like, because if I'm correct, a police officer has equipment on his belt that can, that would be non-lethal. If I'm assuming that. So
that goes back to the
tasers aren't
always been told.
Effective.
Well, tasers are effective.
Not always.
Oh no, stun guns. I'm thinking of stun guns. Stun guns are effective. But I also go back to what information they was told. If they was told armed and dangerous, they're not going to take a taser gun to an armed and dangerous location.
They're going to shoot to kill. They're going to hit center mass.
Well, I mean, what I'm saying is that they should have had both. If they notice that there is no analysis, there is no weapons on this citizen currently. I do not see a weapon on this citizen. I will put my pistol into my holster while other people have pistols aimed at him. I will get out non-lethal things in order to subdue the person and make sure that they get in handcuffs.
Yeah, I do agree they should handle the situation a little different.
Yeah.
But
That is the way that that is the way an actual police officer should act. Not this power hungry. I got this marking on my gun and I just can't wait to use it. We have these people that much in the same way that the ones that love war for the some of them for the simple fact that they haven't been in it.
Right.
Some people love going to deploy,
and
because of the money.
Yeah, and there's other people that are also for the money and they're addicted to the adrenaline.
Yep. And also, and by the way, I would really advise everybody read that Radley Balco book. It's solid stuff, and it discusses how, like, basically use of force has escalated with the amount of military equipment they've gotten.
Yeah, they feel they need to use it. We have it, so let's use it. Like, people like getting the dog sicked on them when it's unnecessary. They do it because they want their dog to get a bite, not because it was necessary, not because they weren't complying. They just wanted to use their toys.
Yeah.
Yeah, until we know exactly goes onto some police officer's head, we have to look at both sides of the fence, the innocent way and what heals the person who done the violence. We have to think both sides.
No, wait a minute. I don't want to look on both sides. You know how many times I've been on the other side of the police officer's gun? You know how many times they could have shot me and just walked away? No, I don't want to look at the other side. I could have been the man that was killed in Phoenix. Fuck that. I have 6 children and a wife. What are they going to do without their father and their husband? No, I don't want to look on the other side. Fuck that officer. Fuck him right up the ass. And if I run into him tomorrow at Albertsons, I will knock his punk ass out. Fuck that motherfucker.
They're thinking the exact same thing, too. What if they don't go home today?
Oh, yeah. Because
okay, but the word on cops is still bullshit.
Yeah.
No, you know what? You have a point. Because there has been times in our history where the cops were open season, so to say. You know, Al Capone in Chicago. You know, Prohibition era. Maybe some of the gang members in New York might put a mark on a cop. But in Phoenix, Arizona, in a hotel room, is that guy really going to shoot at you? You need to weigh that in your head. He's wearing a loose T-shirt, a pair of basketball shorts, walking back from the bar with another guest at the hotel. And you really think he is ready to kill? This is another Mandela Bay fucking event? No, it's not. And you need to use your own logic and to think that through if you're going to wear a fucking
lot of them
badge.
don't really use logic.
Yeah.
I do agree with that previous statement. They do use the badge for... They think they're the power in the house.
Exactly. Cops use excessive force more often than they need to.
Some do. Some are actually the ones you want to be friends with.
Right. There are
they're
good cops
cool.
and there are bad cops, but the problem is that even if a good cop sees a bad cop acting out of line, they have to weigh their options. Do they want to throw their career away by ratting on a fellow officer? Because if they do rat on that fellow officer, then they're going to be ganged upon and fucking ran out of the police force pretty much.
Oh, and to be ran out of that little local area, he'll be getting a new job in a different area.
Right, but their record would still follow them, is what I'm saying. They're going to be seen as a snitch.
And when that record goes out to actually the public news, more and more people will trust that one police officer over the police officers that other police officers.
I totally agree. I just say, I mean, will they make it that far? Will they be able to stick it out and fucking, you know what I mean? Like they're gonna be scapegoats, and the other cops are gonna make their life hell.
There actually be some police force that actually will take him in because how honest he is. to get the public relations more closer than with the current situation.
I would like to believe that. I mean, I would like to believe that, good would triumph over fucking badness, but realistically, the bad cops are the ones in charge.
Yeah, they're the ones who get to pay the most money.
Yeah.
And let me be very specific. By conservative estimates, 10,000 civilians a month on average have been killed in the war on terror a month. 1,000 civilians have been killed by cops on average in the war
10,000
on
a
the
month
public.
on war of terror? What the hell are you getting those numbers from? CNN?
The Watson Institute. And
Dude, we have not hit 6,000 yet in 10, 11 years.
Look it up. Look it up. All right? I gave you a source. I'm not being a dumbass libtard. You can't own me that easy. Look at my source.
I do know the numbers because I've done the funerals for my first 4 years in the military.
I don't care, dude. I'm talking about numbers that were recorded by like a third party that you can verify. I gave you that. Don't argue with me. 1,000 people a month killed by cops, and then like maybe 10 a month of cops being killed. And so the world police are killing, the police at home are killing, and the cops are barely being killed in terms of the global war on terror, and in terms of the war on drugs, which is the primary enforcement thing here at home. The cops and the government are not in as much danger as they hype up.
The only numbers I'll argue is the war on terror. Because honestly, we have not hit 10,000
Look at the
yet.
Watson Institute. I'll just give you that, okay? Will you look at that?
That's the only numbers I will argue about.
Will you look at the Watson Institute's findings and find out why?
I will literally look it up.
Okay.
But I don't agree with over 10,000 a month.
What can we do to stop it then? I mean, what can we do to make it to where?
Actually, wait, I misspoke. It's like I think it might be 1,000. I misspoke. That's my mistake.
Yeah, 10,000 because I know we had not hit 10,000 yet in 11 years. We'd be in Iraq and Afghanistan.
No. I misspoke. Because sorry,
those numbers is which I challenged you on.
Yeah. And what was I going right? And like, so if you look at the way that these numbers come about, if you look at the way that people like essentially justify military action and police action, it's always for some noble cause. But then if you look at the numbers and the fact that this creates tension in every community it affects and creates copycats, creates people interested in joining gangs and terrorist organizations, the U.S. government is better at making enemies than defeating them, and that's the fucking point.
I actually do agree with that. Like the terrorists we fight now in Afghanistan, we actually trained them.
CIA.
Yeah.
We took their ones before that.
See, Al Qaeda, ISIS. We trained.
We
literally trained them.
We
to
armed
fight
them.
the other enemies.
Yeah, we armed them. We trained them.
We made all of our enemies that we had through the wars.
And somehow profit happened. Somehow.
Yeah. And mysteriously we had profit on every single one.
Well, the government did. We didn't. We got to offset the cost onto future generations by stacking the unborn like their dollar bills.
I did know one thing. Our defense budget, I don't really see it. I'm still using shit from the 1960s.
Well, we're spending spending a lot on those $40 hammers, you know.
Well, MC is in
hammers, $50 shovels.
Well, that's not what they're spending. They're not spending that. That's how they're writing off the fucking black budget operations. Come on,
right?
But I know. MC's in the chat. We did not make these enemies. MC, me and you have argued about blowback on numerous occasions, and I will stand by my own statements. I believe we have created these enemies. We've created them by interfering in their own personal affairs, just like China came and interfered in America. Oh yeah, not to mention we gave them their weapons. Al Qaeda, at
Yes.
least. You want to
We
talk
did.
about mass destruction? We gave Iraq those, and then we turned around and said, "Oh, you can't have those. We're going to kill you." That seems fair. And yeah, MC, I went there anyway.
What was
he'll probably be back.
what was the?
I do have a.
Oh, go ahead, Ferret.
I do have a quick question. When you say we made those enemies, are you talking about America in specific or Western society?
The American government and its allies in terms of hegemony.
We shipped a lot of people over to the States. We trained
and
them,
I didn't.
then we ship them back.
And I didn't, but and that's one of the things. In order to be less collectivist, which is ironic because people are calling me a communist in chat. In order to be less collectivist, I tried to stop saying "we" when referring to groups that I wasn't a part of. So,
well, I am a member of the United States, therefore our government represents us, like it or
it
not.
does. It doesn't sound like it represents you very well.
It doesn't, but
it represents you if you vote. If it don't represent you, you have no reason to fucking blame.
I voted
do
for,
vote, but my vote doesn't count.
I voted for Gary. What is Aleppo Johnson? I'll tell you what Aleppo is.
I voted for Gary Johnson.
We shouldn't bomb. It's a place we shouldn't bomb. And Gary, you fucked that question up. I'll never forgive you. Like that is the answer he needed to do.
Dude, we was a lose-lose situation with this election.
That and he wanted to use market strategy with Omegle, and that's
The way I look at it, we have a liar who deleted all their emails and a business person who knows how to fucking lie to get what he wants.
What you're looking at there,
that's why I looked at it, so I voted independent.
You're looking at two heads that go to the same stomach.
Well, right, and of course, like they're friends. Like everybody forgets that. Everybody forgets Trump calling Republicans stupid because it's inconvenient to the argument.
Yeah, and nobody fucking talks about the fact that there are reports of how Bill Clinton and Trump were not only buddy-buddy, but there was a phone call to that office before Trump had thrown his hat into the ring. So all they were doing was just trying to secure their agenda. I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but it's so...
I'm a conspiracy theorist.
It's not a conspiracy. I actually believe that.
It's so easy to see.
Conspiracy.
It's so easy to see. They make it fucking obvious now because they don't realize the internet not only never forgets, but the internet it's become what we perceive as God if we're looking at a collective type of thing. Like the internet is all knowing. It's always around. You know, wherever you are, guess what? You're on the internet if you're on a camera.
You're either on Facebook, Twitter, or some kind of social media. Share it for thousands.
Oh, I mean, I can just through Google I can fucking go through security cameras. Like it's retarded. Like, you know, you will always have that now. And yeah, I forgot where I was going with that.
That seems to happen a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I see, and here's the thing: everybody who doesn't think that the U.S. government trained, funded, and supported what would become Al Qaeda should look into the Soviet-Afghan conflict, because essentially that's where
the Cold War.
Well, yeah, it was a part of that, but like this specifically is a really good emblematic example of this, where the U.S. government sent essentially CIA money and personnel over to train the Mujahideen, and eventually those people became what is now ISIS. So, I mean, I don't know how much clearer it could be.
Now we're training more people to fight ISIS, which eventually
we
don't a new terrorist group.
Yeah, we are profiting off this war. We are making so much money in America off this war. I'm not saying the general public is making that. I'm saying like the Koch brothers, just the people that are fucking Gerber, Like the different corporations are making so much money off of
Well,
it.
yeah, and of course the Lucky Larry thing.
Well, no, and the thing is, when you bring up the Koch brothers, I actually kind of like the Koch brothers. They donated a large amount of money to the Libertarian Party last presidential election round, so that kind of gained a little bit of respect.
Small drop in the bucket compared to what they donate in other areas.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But I don't necessarily see how they're making money off this war. The United States government definitely isn't, because we no longer go to war to take territory. Okay,
What
if you want to go to war,
businesses do they have?
fair enough. Fair enough. And then you also have the militia groups, the paramilitary organization, Blackwater, who turned into whatever.
Plane.
What did Blackwater turn into? Echelon or some shit? I don't know. They changed their name.
They changed their names till they fuck up. Then we'll know the name. They'll change something else.
And now Blackwater is Academy, with like an I instead of a Y.
Yep.
But my point is, the United States government no longer goes to war to take territory and actually annex territory in new areas. We go to war and then we rebuild the city we blew up. How does that make sense to anybody, fiscally or morally? What? I'm gonna bomb you into oblivion. Here's a new school. Where do the kids go to the school? You
Hitler.
dick.
And of course, that school
reason
teaches
why we do it
Americanism.
nowadays.
What was our salute to the American flag before it was what it is now?
Kyle.
No, okay, so Hitler didn't invent that salute. That was the Romans.
No. After we pretty much destroyed Germany in World War One, we left them all alone to pay for their own debts. Then
We
Hitler
took
came
all
to
their
rise.
scientists.
No, this is talking about World War One, not World War Two. World War One, after war ended, we left Germany alone to pay for all of his own debts, to rebuild his own city. That's when Hitler came to rise. To prevent another Hitler, that's why we rebuild after we destroy them. So we do not want another Hitler come to rise.
Well, actually, Hitler was a fanboy of America.
Minus all the Jews and the gays and the blacks and the non-blue-haired, blue-eyed, blonde-haired.
Sorry, Ferret. I know you haven't got to talk much. You just joined us. I'm sorry I cut you off. But I just want to point out real quick why it's in my head. Hitler was not a fan of America, okay? He was not a fan of the American system of republicanism. As in we have a republic, not the Republican Party, okay? He was a fan of Abraham Lincoln and how he took away habeas corpus. He locked up newspaper printers and shut down all dissension in the Union during the War of Northern Aggression, i.e. the Civil War, the war between the states, what have you. But that's who Hitler was a fan of, not the American system per se.
That and Mickey Mouse. Can't forget Mickey Mouse.
Yep.
And minus all the bad things he'd done, Hitler was actually a pretty good leader in the advancement of Germany. They had the television in the 1930s when we got in the 1950s.
Hitler was don't pussyfoot around. Hitler was a brilliant motherfucker who just went about it all the wrong way for all the wrong reasons. It's okay.
He was on copious amounts of meth.
And also, like, that's one of the things I don't like is when people decry government is stupid. Government is not stupid. It's been intelligent enough to turn the entire world into their tax farm. That's not stupid. That's pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
But I'm tired. What I'm tired of is people pussyfooting around and being afraid to say what's factual. Like, nobody wants to say Hitler was a brilliant man. He was a fucking brilliant man. He did some shitty things. Somebody can be evil and be smart. It's okay, people. Calm the fuck down.
Yeah, I mean, I've been called evil like most of my life, so I mean, I can agree with that.
I don't know evil, but I definitely think you got a couple screws loose. But that's not the point of this stream, now, is it? I don't like you as an individual, but I've been told that I'm only allowed to attack people's ideas. So.
Hey, we all float down here. I don't know
how. We do all float down here, don't we? But is popcorn your favorite?
Only if popcorn has butter on it. Then it's
Always.
my favorite.
Always.
People with kettle corn, yeah, get away from me.
Oh, fuck you. Kettle corn's good.
I fuck kettle corn. I need
Hey,
flavor
hey,
and butter.
have you had actual like actual kettle corn?
Okay, anyway, back to the point of the stream. Jeremiah's an idiot and we're all trying to argue against him. All right, go. Scene. Action.
Well,
actually, I think I'm a little bit on Jeremiah's side. Other than going full on anarchist, I still believe that the government needs to stop at the Articles of Confederation, and I do not believe they were necessarily as flawed as everybody else does. I believe that we can have a compact between states that isn't necessarily an involuntary union that you can never leave ever, ever, ever.
well, I mean, having them have all different. Sorry about that. Having them have all different states would mean all different currencies. We would not have a national currency. We can look at the continental dollar for that and see that. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, do we necessarily need a continental currency? If you look at Britain when they joined the EU, they kept the pound, and that turned out really well for them. Why? Because now when they leave, they don't have to bring back the pound. It's still in circulation.
Let's go back to when the continental dollar was first produced. And back in whenever the Articles of Confederation were first devised, Washington had his army and he was going around and he was fighting the British, doing different campaigns and skirmishes, and he was like, "Hey, we need some gold. We need our gold. How are we going to fund anything right now? We're grabbing at straws. We're grabbing the enemy's stuff and using it against them. We had to drag cannons. Come on, guys. Where's our gold? Where's our gold?" And they go, "Well, here, let's give you a bunch of IOU pieces of paper, and say that's money." And whenever he did that, the soldiers goes, "What the fuck are we gonna do with this shit?" So they just started wiping their ass. They used it to wipe their ass. That's where the expression came from. Ain't worth a continental dollar.
Okay, fair enough when you're talking about the money, but I own the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and Articles of Confederation. I have them in my hand here. I'm going to read you Article 2 and Article 3 real quick. I would like the panel's thoughts on this. Article 2 of the Articles of Confederation. Each state retains its sovereignty, freedom, and independence, and every power, jurisdiction, and right, which is not by this confederation expressly delegated to the United States in Congress assembled. Article 3. The said states hereby severally enter into a firm league of friendship with each other for their common defense, the security of their liberties, and their mutual and general welfare, binding themselves to assist each other against all force offered to or attacks made upon them or any of them on account of religion, sovereignty, trade, or any other pretense whatever. How are those necessarily bad? And if you look at the wording, we enter into a compact of friendship, not a perpetual union. And that is where I get into my secessionist rants, to where we do have the right to secede. We always have, and we were a nation born of secession. Independence Day is not Independence Day. It is Secession Day. We left the British Commonwealth. That's what we did. Go ahead, panel. I don't care who starts.
Honestly, you still can't succeed from the union if you propose the bill and you get majority of the state to vote for it. That's how it's done nowadays.
Okay, so I leave a social club. I have to ask everybody else if I'm allowed to leave, even if I'm paying $5,000 a year in dues. They don't want me to leave then, do they? They want my money, don't they?
Pretty much.
Well,
that's really how it is. You need 51% of votes.
The state on the Articles of Confederation, whenever it says friendship, this is why I bring up the currency part about the continental dollar. You would have all the separate states having to create their own business infrastructure to where they can have their own currency. They can have now modern day times. Then it might work, but this would be the issues that you would have with it.
Oh yeah, each state has their own currency. That'll be a headache in my ass.
Not only that, but let's say you are in Tennessee. And
Tennessee on the Kentucky border, you have to really change. Lily, you have to exchange your currency. Just go to Walmart in one state. If they had nothing, you had to exchange your currency to go back to your home state, to Tennessee.
You know what?
Just to buy something from Walmart. If not, you have to go to another state to exchange currency to find what you need at Walmart.
No. I don't think you guys are understanding though. They didn't necessarily have paper currency at the time. They didn't issue this debt currency that we have now. It wasn't fiat. Okay, these were backed on gold and silver.
That's
copper.
That's what I was going to say.
And you had gold coins. They would take your gold coin no matter what. That's gold. Okay, that's still money. Now the value of said gold might change between states. You might have an exchange rate kind of sort of thing.
Well, also value is subjective.
Yeah,
fair enough. Yeah,
the paradox of value versus yeah.
Excuse me, just for a second. There's actually two aspects of the value system. There's objective or pragmatic value, and then there's subjective value. Just
well, I mean that would create the marketing systems in each state, but having it like right now, what we would have is some people would go, well, we're wanting to use we're wanting to use the peso. You know, like let's say there's some of the people that now not. I don't understand why the fuck they would want to, but let's just say that they want to use the peso, and then that state decides to use that. Well, we like we like the pound, so, or you know, so they go to the pound, and then you know each currency has their own deal. What it would do is it would have more of a tribalistic type of societies, which
I don't think so. I absolutely don't think so, especially living in the information age where you can perform conversions of measurements and even money as easy as going to a library or pulling your phone out of your pocket. If you know you don't have a phone or a computer, you can go to a library and do it. Most businesses would be capable of doing it. So if every state currency is backed by gold or silver in a traditional sense, it would be fairly simple to walk into a store in Indiana and spend your Kentucky dollar, because the store owner could very easily access the information he needs to make an informed transaction. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but
and we would also probably see something very similar to how the state of Indiana accepts and is reciprocated by other states their carry license for handguns. Other states will accept an Indiana permit, and that's actually a crossover amongst a lot of states. There's a lot of things that
unless there's also considering states that don't like other states.
Then that's where you're going to run into issues, and that's where you're going to have to see your conversion of currency. Otherwise, I do not think it would be a big deal to go to Kentucky and spend your Indiana dollar.
Yeah, but like there are many states that dislike other states, and that's another thing that it would create a lot of division in America. Not that it's not there right now, but
no, we want to go to the extreme. We're going to go to the extreme.
Yeah.
I mean, go to fucking Thailand with $100 bill, U.S. currency. You'll still spend that motherfucker just the same as if it was in their currency.
And that's why I like cryptocurrency, by the way, because it's a fairly global possibility.
possibility. It's not practical as of this current moment.
Yeah, no, but neither is anarchy. So I'm trying to change shit.
I
Way
understand.
around news about crypto is it might hit $50,000 by the end of the year. So cryptocurrency is good, something to invest in, but something I really won't trust in, because
It depends on what the whales want it to be.
not only that, is if the internet goes down, you lost all your money.
Well, yes and no. You can print out Bitcoins, and they have the code on them and everything, to where you can have a hard copy of said Bitcoins. That is possible. Now, when it comes to cryptocurrency, I'm kicking my own ass for not buying Bitcoins 5 years ago, because
Fuck yeah.
I would be rich right now. Because when that shit spiked up, I would have sold all of the motherfuckers. All right,
but see,
I
that's
would
the
not
thing.
be living in a single wide trailer. I would have a nice big house.
That's the thing. It's an asset, and it should be used as a part of a diverse portfolio.
I remember when a group of people bought sponsored a NASCAR Sprint Cup Series car with Bitcoins. If I had known what I know now, I would invest when I seen that car. Because that's when you can buy like 4,000 Bitcoins in roughly $5. It was that cheap.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing. You should diversify a portfolio, and right now is a good time to do it, especially with all the coins that are possible on the market.
Yeah.
Take out a bank loan to get that shit.
Well, not really. You just have to. The way that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency really works is you have the whales, and then you have like the way that they move from currency to currency and invest in certain currencies. Like whenever they do, it shoots up, and then it's all a dance of, okay, well, I have this small amount invested in this type of Bitcoin. Well, that person invested this much, which then increased the value of it. Well, as soon as they increase it, then I'm going to sell in order to wait until it decreases again and deflates in order to buy it again. But I still hold the profit because I'm becoming a whale in another cryptocurrency.
Do you want to know how much? Do you want to know how much Bitcoin costs right now?
Oh, I know.
$6,610.13 for the people who don't know.
Yeah, currently. But you're going to have to do the same thing that other people that want to get started in stocks would do. You have to do penny stocks, pink shares. You got to build it up. You can't just.
Penny stocks are fine. Someone that, like Ford, they're cheap. Invest in that, no, you're going to get a stabilization of money from them. Not be a lot, but you're going to get stabilized. A few dollars.
And of course, it doesn't help that like basically the entire car market fled America. But go ahead.
Yeah.
That's really I got to say is comparing Ford to the crypto. Because I know, because Ford's like $20 a stock. Last time I checked.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, everybody should get an Acorns account because Acorns is relatively good for this sort of thing on a minimal level.
I was looking at Acorns. I wasn't sure because there were like a lot of apps being advertised to me about like not only Acorns but a bunch of others. And how does it work exactly?
Okay, so and I'm not sponsored by Acorns. I do have an invite link somebody can click if they want, but I'm not sponsored by Acorns. They don't endorse whatever, blah blah. But basically, what it does is you can set it up to take every purchase you make and round it up to the nearest dollar, $5, $10, that sort of thing, and then it invests that money into your stock portfolio automatically.
Huh. So you can customize where you want your investments to be while it does that.
It basically it's beginner level, I would say. So it has various levels of aggressiveness in terms of like building your profile, and then and you select one of those and it automatically invests it for you. And people have been known to make enough for that car that they've been wanting to pay off their student loans, whatever.
Huh.
Acorn.
I might look into that.
I need to look at the
'cause,
Acorn because I'm thinking about investing.
Yeah, I just went back to school for my bachelor's in history, so I'll have quite a bit of student loans after I get my bachelor's degree. I might want to look into that.
Have the government paying for my shit?
Yeah, well, I didn't necessarily think I could make it through basic, not physically or even well, it would be mental because some dude starts yelling at me and telling me to do shit. I'm gonna tell them to fuck themselves and
That's
go
what they
jump off a
all
bridge.
say. When you first day, you're scared as shit. Doesn't matter what kind of mentality you're going in, you're gonna be scared as shit on day one. When that shark attack happens, you're scared as shit.
But yeah, I mean, so I would suggest getting many sorts of diversity. Like, and Acorns also has a new program that they have going where you can directly spend from a specific card so that you don't have to wait for bank transfers. And like that program is rolling out later this year. So you can join the beta, I think, at this point, unless it's closed now. I joined relatively early. And they give you this engraved card and shit. But essentially, like there are many different apps that you can. There's Sweatcoin, which is, you know, I have my problems with it now, but basically it's a point system that you can exchange for shit, for walking. So like if you just hold your phone in your pocket, you've got like passive income, a very tiny passive income, but you know, passive income nonetheless. And there's plenty of other ways that you can just sort of like make shit move in the background.
How does that work? I have a Galaxy S5. It tracks your steps. Is that how it works?
Yeah, it's sort of like that. It makes sure you're out of the quote bubble of your home, and then past that, it tracks your steps based on bouncing and distance walked, so that it can make sure that you're not just attaching it to your Chihuahua.
Okay.
Huh,
How many steps equals how much money?
Oh well, and that's the thing. You like they claim it's a cryptocurrency, but it's fucking not. So I'm not gonna call it that anymore anyway, because I got fooled at first. They claim it's a cryptocurrency, but it's point system, and you can exchange it for various things in their store. And you know, I mean, it sounds like chintzy when I phrase it that way, but think about it like it's better to have a 1 than a 0 in terms of investment, so you might as well have it anyway.
Okay,
if
how
you're going
many
to be walking
steps
anyway.
per points?
I think it's like just like, oh man, if I remember correctly, 100 steps to one sweat coin.
Shit.
If I remember
my next
correctly.
training exercise, how about you getting like $500 worth?
And
Yeah,
how much is the sweat coin to dollar?
Well, like I said, it's not a currency. Like they claim it is, but it's not. It's just points. So you'd have to go to the store inside the app and see if it was worth it to you.
Interesting. Okay,
Hey, free
so
shit is still free shit.
Yeah.
So, all right, we talked a little bit about revolution. Well, I don't think we really got into that enough. Is there certain revolutions that you think are bad, Bosch? Like, you know, the French Revolution, or what about the Russian Revolution where they went straight communist? Wasn't that necessarily bad for millions of people? I mean, not all revolutions are good, are they?
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and say something on the communism part. Sorry, Jeremiah, but you might agree with it. With communism, what you're dealing with is, look at the two founders of communism. Their ideas and everything were something else. They did something that was actually, on paper, it was a good thing. And then the other three that followed killed millions of people.
Yes.
So I believe that we can all agree that the concept of communism on paper is a good thing.
Yeah, on paper it's good,
But
but
don't
when
you
it comes
think?
to the person who takes charge of it, it never
See,
ends in good things.
See,
Well,
my general mindset is that with government you lose, and since I'm an anarchist, that's what I'm saying. If you want to go on a versus anarchy level, they didn't have a revolution really. They just changed hands of power. They did an Animal Farm thing, and
They had a
it's not going to
revolution
work
to
that
get
way.
it.
Well, no,
I disagree.
No, Jeremiah, I kind of agree with that point. They really did just hand the reins of power from the czars to, the communist regime. And the thing is, I don't know what part of that revolution was good. Are you talking about the redistribution of wealth? Because I believe private property is your only independence from the government. That's why I'm so mad.
And I could agree with that. The reason I said that it was good is because essentially, revolution is good is because essentially I can make the distinction between revolution and regime change.
No, not only all revolutions are good. Like the Chinese Revolution, between the democracy that's now Taiwan versus the communist China that's nowadays, they fought for the mainland China, and the democratic Chinese actually went to Taiwan. And we know how the Chinese communist China, the revolution ended because Chairman Mao took over, and we know how many millions of people went killed under him.
Mao Zedong. Zhao Zedong.
Which is on every currency bill. That's in China, literally. The 1 yen, the 5 RMB, the 10 RMB, the 20, the 50, the 100. Chairman Mao's on all of it.
Derpy, go ahead, sir. I see you waving at the camera again.
If I may please add that sentence. There's that handsome son of a bitch's face again. But that's why I was about the communism sounding fantastic on paper. That's why when I made early in the podcast, I made my hypothesis, my hypothetical anarchist society involving social communes that are totally voluntary. That's why I mentioned it as part of it.
Yeah, definitely. Because with the state, you lose. Especially if you're trying to get a decentralized system like communism. Like, oh yeah, let's decentralize everything and give the power to the people. And then, who's the people? Oh yeah, those guys.
Well, I mean,
yeah, that's going to work.
The thing about Animal Farm was it did convey that the beginning of communism was actually a decent thing. Because whenever
it had decent intentions.
Whenever they overthrew the farmer, Snowball, I believe, was the one that started it, saying that all animals are equal, and he did
Which,
that.
by the way, is a bullshit concept. But go ahead.
Well, yeah. But the thing, I'm gonna get into the story more.
Yeah, I got you.
Like we know the ending, but what happened was he got ran out by the one who wanted power, and that one symbolized just basically how the communism. Yes, it is something that was great, but the thing that they did not consider in the writings of communism is a little thing that's called a little big thing called greed.
Yeah.
Actually, there was another piece I got to add. When you talk about decentralized power in the Communist Manifesto, actually, a Hoodie Demon actually took a screenshot of the actual digitized page that mentioned a centralized banking system, which is against what we want. We want to decentralize.
Well, right. But the Communist Manifesto, of course, does not speak for all forms of communism. That's what I can say to that.
Well, no, that's Leninism. But the thing is, though, that still remains is the human greed. And that's why when you look at Ayn Rand and her writings, and you look at the libertarian view of everything, greed propels society. We all want more for ourselves, for our family, for everything. Therefore, greed is paramount in that. We want it, so we're going to get it. That propels a society. That's how we made it to the moon. It was greed. It was pride. It was us being better than the Soviets. That's how we made it. And we could do that on an individual level as well. We could decentralize. And we could at least go back to a state sovereignty, if not a sovereign citizen type system, which is a little more problematic for many different reasons.
If you want to argue about greed, if you look at China, you really see that greed has taken over the damn country. There's people doing, I mean,
well, they have fake
I don't really know how to say it right now, but scams. They'll do scams just to get an extra buck to get money.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and here's, like, they have fake skies.
It's like
they have fake
they
skies
worship the money.
Trust me, sucks so much.
Well, I mean, there's people that run those scams in America too.
Right.
Oh, it's horrible in China.
And
like
that's because
they'll go to having fake rice to serve to the customers just to save an extra buck just to get the damn money.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, these people learn from the best. The state is the best party at running scams. Social Security, fiat currency, all of these things are scams. And people don't recognize that immediately. They have to be told it because the state won't tell them that. They'll just say you're paying in, so of course you'll get out. But fundamentally, statism is a scam. So, I mean, we're talking about people who've learned very well that if they want anything, different, they've got to go through state powers. So, of course, they're going to try to run scams. That just seems like a natural consequence.
The concept of Social Security is a decent thing.
I don't think so.
Like one of the things that I see, like for example, I don't like it being abused. Like, let's say the disability.
It's been abused like shit.
I'm not saying that it is it is not being abused, because it is. It's being highly abused. Food stamps being highly abused. But the way I see it is, I would rather it be abused than have somebody that goes like, I mean, yes, we should reform it. But I would rather have a system that is being abused than have someone going without that needs it.
Well, okay. So this is my argument for that. If you think these people need it, why would you not voluntarily provide it without a system like this that puts it on rails?
That's something Murray Rothbard talked about, voluntary welfare, and he actually had a few good arguments. Like, they had a couple of deals over there in the UK. He mentioned historically documented. He mentioned those in a clip, and then they had the Mormon and this. Hey, those who are anti-theists, that's fine. Hate on religion all you want, but the Mormons had a good voluntary welfare system too, and Murray Rothbard actually did mention this.
Are you talking about the banking thing that they did?
No, it was the voluntary welfare system that Murray Rothbard actually mentioned. There was there's a video clip. It's called the.
But I'm talking about the Mormons, like their banking system was no. It did not work.
The banking system, but,
at all.
I'll have to link you. I'll link you the video clip on it.
Okay.
I'll link you the video clip on it.
Well, no. I remember watching the 2016 Libertarian presidential debate. What the fuck was his name? He's got really big ears. God damn it! I can't remember his name right now.
That describes a lot of
Bush.
Daryl Perry.
Daryl Perry, thank you. That's exactly who it was. I appreciate that. Nice. Fucking Jeremiah for the save. Daryl Perry was like, you know what? You want to see how you do Social Security? How many people like grandmas? Raise your hand. Everybody raise their hand. How many people would donate money to help grandma eat and pay her rent? Everybody raise their hand. That's how you fund Social Security. That right there is how you fund it. Not even your grandma. What we're talking about is personal, private citizens donating to a charity. And right now, we don't donate to charity very much. You know why? Because the government has their own welfare system. They have their
And
own
we're
and because they
selfish ass
net.
bastards too.
And because they disempower personal investment in anything, much less a charitable thing where you don't get a return on that investment, except like emotional satisfaction or whatever. They disincentivize investment by debasing the currency, by having all these regulations so you can't start a business, all that shit. So I mean, realistically speaking, the government wants people to be stuck to their charity system, and then they want to make it forced instead of charity at all, like Penn Jillette would say. So, I mean, we're talking about an institution that has monopolized power, and to say that they'll do anything else with something like Social Security or et cetera, it seems like it's either an ignorance of history or generally wishful thinking.
Well, no.
I was going to tell you it was not the banking system the Mormons did. It was like this private aid that they did for people through the church that actually at times did work.
That's all churches, but I also believe that if we're dealing with taxes and everyone's taxed, I believe that the churches should be taxed too, because that's $73 trillion.
No shit.
That's put into the church.
That could have been done. Well, this is something I was going to talk about about the taxation. I think we should revoke the 16th Amendment and go back to the apportionment system and voting system to deal with the top 5 most voted on deals, and we have a tax bracket that's based on votes and shit, and we adjust it accordingly based on a voting system like that.
Well, what we're dealing with right now is on the tax issue is well, let's say that we all go to a restaurant, okay?
Yep.
And we all eat, all of our meals are roughly the same amount.
Yes.
Everything's roughly the same, and then the bill comes. Well, let's say that let's take Jeremiah as the richer people going. Well, I'm only going to pay this much. I get to choose how much I pay. And then we have let's say we'll put Derpy Redneck as the working class going, well, I gotta pay, you gotta pay your dues, and you see the rich guy has put in this much money, whereas the working class has put in a larger amount, and then you have, yeah, that's the thing is that's one of the issues I have with Trump is that he was like, oh yeah, dodging taxes made me smart, and I'm like, no, it made you a fucking it made you hard. It made it harder on the middle class. You fuck.
Well, okay. So first off, if taxation is theft, then dodging taxes, I have to smile at a little bit. Real quick, though, I do have a couple things to say. One, you brought up the 16th Amendment. I'm going to read it out so everybody exactly knows what you're talking about, because, the United States education system isn't one of
it's absolute garbage, yes.
Yeah.
The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived, mind you, without apportionment among the several states, and without regard to any census or enumeration. It is a load of horse shit. Okay? Exactly. That's what the 16th Amendment is. But no, the only thing I have to say against the scenario you gave is, if we want to have taxes, then have a 2% flat tax across the board. The poorer classes like me, I will pay a certain amount of money, 2% of my income. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, the rich, their 2% of their income is going to be far more than my 2%. And it will even the playing field when it comes to tax law.
Yeah, and right now what we're dealing with is the imbalance of the opposite.
Well, and how about this? How about, I'd be very specific. The rich get their money largely through institutions which have historically supported the state and been supported by the state. That's how the super rich got super rich. They connected with the right people. They got in the right business meetings, and they got the right shit done off record. Bilderberg is a great example of how the wealthy interact with one another. Same with the Davos elite. Plenty of examples that I could bring up. And essentially, my point would be that if the currency collapsed, which would be one of the first steps to abolishing the state, is abolishing their debt, the elites would have no money except like what they could make off of selling their assets. The elites would lose their shirt, which is why they constantly push against things like anarchy. So we're talking about people who would be a new breed of wealthy if they were wealthy. They would have to start from the ground up because there wouldn't be one of these systems which robs all the lower classes already to make sure that they can keep stacking.
Well, no, you're absolutely right, but I might be a pessimist a little bit, maybe even a nihilist, but I still believe in what the American dream was. You know what the American dream was? You could rise from where I was. I was 16 and homeless until I was about 20, and I fucking had my oldest son, and I got full custody of him. I got into a place, and I started my life. I rose from the bottom up. I now own my own home.
Right.
It is a shitty little trailer, but I own it. It's mine. Nobody can take it from me, except for the government. But the thing is...
Because property taxes mean they own your shit. But go ahead.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. And Oregon has some of the highest property taxes in the whole country, which is ridiculous. But the thing is, though, there is still an American dream, and there is still a drive amongst the people to achieve said dream.
Okay.
And I believe communism and socialism, stuff like that, takes away the dream. It says that you're entitled to this for doing nothing. And I believe there's a real big problem with that. And I would like to know, Jeremiah, where do you stand on minarchists? Because I would probably be more of a minarchist. I'm more like bring it down to the Constitution. Sorry, I just wanted to finish my flow of consciousness here. I want to bring it more to the Constitution or even Articles of Confederation. After that, we could argue about the roads, all right? We can have that argument.
Right.
But right now, we're being taxed through the nose and told, shut up, pay me.
So, like I said, I'm anarcho-coalitionist. My particular thing is militant panarchy. And what that means is that I'll work with you to minimize the state, and then I'll just want to take it one step further. And if you want to use the state to stop people from voluntarily trading the way that I would say that they could in this sort of society, the sort of society that I'd push with you to get, that you would be violating their rights at that point. You could have your minarchist sort of utopia if you could make it. But my personal idea is that, that should be your choice and I should have my choices, which would mean that, yes, I would absolutely work with you to get to that level. And then I'd push further for my own self and the people who wanted to come with me.
And that's a very good point. Another thing I would like to have your thoughts on, how do you feel about the non-aggression principle? And that goes for the whole panel, because we have some new people here, guys. So I want to know your guys' thoughts on that.
Non-aggression principle is relatively axiomatic, and I think that it applies in pretty much, like, I'm not going to give a percentile, but a high percentile of the cases that could be brought up of it. If not 100%, and I just haven't figured out how to get that part past my cognitive dissonance. So I support the non-aggression principle. I think that that's a fundamental tenet of acknowledging self-ownership, and without something like some sort of acknowledgement that you're not going to violate my boundaries, I have no knowledge that you aren't just another state.
Dargan, you? I'm going to go last this time.
Could we restate the question, please?
Oh, the non-aggression principle. What is your stance on it? You know what it is, right? I don't have to explain it. If I do have to, I will.
Give us a short elaboration.
Hey, if I can take it from my etymological perspective, I would very much appreciate that.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, the word aggression comes from a Redeye, and that means to move against. And fundamentally speaking, the non-aggression principle states don't fuck somebody's boundaries up, don't move over them. And if you do, expect to lose all sorts of rights, expect to have all sorts of things threatened that weren't threatened before because you tread on them. The non-aggression principle basically is don't tread on me taken to a philosophical norm.
So,
And
so basically, the aspects of the Liber Oz.
yeah, similar.
Yeah.
And
I
like,
have no issue with that actually. Like,
cool.
If,
yeah, because that means you're not going to violate my self-ownership.
Yeah, because I'm picturing, like, from that, I'm picturing LaVey, I'm picturing the Liber Oz, I'm picturing, like, different things like that. Like, if you want to do something, you can go and do it, provided that you don't infringe on somebody else's will to do the same thing.
Or don't go there.
Well, no, and to break it down to its most simplistic form, if it neither breaks my leg or picks my pocket, I don't care. Yeah. That is the most simple form of
it is of no concern to me was the original.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, I'm going to college. I can't plagiarize. No.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I plagiarized Will Smith from Men in Black. You know, don't start nothing, won't be nothing.
Yeah.
Well, Moondog, I don't think I've ever heard your opinion on the NAP. How do you feel about the non-aggression principle? And as being a military man, I think you might have a little pause there, maybe philosophically.
Right now, my mind's going on about the taxation of the church. For my hometown, I can see why they don't tax the church. Because you barely get 5 people in the church every Sunday. So why point the taxation of the church? You barely get 5 people versus a person who gets thousands of people in the city.
I point that out because currently there are you would have an argument, but I would say how many churches are on every corner in Bible Belt areas?
Where I live, you can't sling a cat behind you without hitting a church.
Exactly. So that would mean that they're not very unified in their religion, correct?
Oh no! Someone gets angry, they decide to make their own church.
So what this would do is, if we were to do taxation on church, then that would be more into inbounds of unifying them as a religion as well.
But way I put it, what I'm thinking right now, I'm sure you have more people in your high school than my whole county does right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a lot of people.
I mean, where I am currently, I'll go ahead and say I'm in the state of Arkansas currently. I move around a lot. That's the reason why I have to specify that.
Let's go with hometowns. That way you know establishment base.
Okay. Hometown that I had was a very, very small town known as Heber Springs.
What was your graduating class?
I actually graduated in Indiana, though. I moved up to Indiana to finish my last year of high school. But what I'm saying is that I understand what you're saying, but like if even if it were to be like a flat tax type of thing, like you have to give a percentage of what it is. And the other thing is did Jesus not say give unto Caesar what is Caesar's?
Oh, I could go on for hours about that because I was raised in the church, but I'm an atheist at this point.
Yeah,
he did not
I was raised
mean
in
what
church
people
too,
claim
but I
he
don't really
means.
study the Bible.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, pay your dues, but like,
Oh, talk about the hillbillies. They'll find a way to avoid the tax.
And by the way, I am not religious at all. I just have a lot of knowledge of religion.
See, and
Well-
here's the thing. The justification for God doing a lot of what God did was that he owns us, right? We are his creations, which means that the world does not belong to Caesar and nothing in it does. The fact that his face is on it does not mean that you should render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, because his face being on something God made and owns doesn't change shit. God made it, he owns it, and that's why he gets to decide what happens to it. Like, I don't like the Bible and I'm not religious anymore, but that's always struck me as a really bullshit argument for taxation and government support.
Yeah, I dropped out of Christianity like a month ago.
But
Oh, okay. Well, hey,
Like,
welcome.
awesome. Congrats, man. Like, it does take a little bit to actually make that step, especially with how they gaslight people. Have you had any gaslight experiences yet?
Gaslight, as in how?
Okay,
Like
gaslighting.
trying to convince you like you're wrong about the way reality is when you're obviously not.
Honestly, no.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
That's
not
good.
just that, but the influence of the social structure of a church where they
Right.
kind of isolate you and.
Well, I
Right.
have one person. When I think it was last week. I was eating Chinese. One person just randomly walked up to me and started talking about the Bible, and I had argument points. Everything he said, I had argument points against him, against the Bible. And the one thing I like about the Bible is like, if you don't follow the one true God, you're burning in hell.
Well, how
And
do you
that- you
decipher
think- if you
that's
look at-
one true God?
That's the one thing. Is, according to the Bible, you have to be God itself, Himself, or itself. If you're religious, Himself, herself, however you believe it. For us atheists, it's going to be itself. If you don't believe in itself, you're burning in hell. Also, according to the Bible, according to the Bible, we all know that God made you the way you are since the day you was born. And some of those people, they're going to burn in hell because the way God made them. Because God is against homosexuals. And a lot of countries like Japan, China, their God, if they're not atheists like China is, they're going to burn in hell because they don't believe in the Christian Bible. I was just thinking about that. I'm like, yeah, the Bible's bullshit. Now I'm thinking about, God rewards those who suffer. Now I'm thinking about those who live in Africa who are dying. Those children are dying. Thousands
That's
of
part of his plan.
Yeah, what plan? Letting them suffer from starvation and diseases and kill them at the age of 2? That's not really a plan from a loving father.
Yeah.
But you
That's when I
see,
realized
they
the
had
Bible's
to
bullshit.
suffer so that people. But you see, they had to suffer to prove how great God's love is once they get to heaven and worship Him forever and grovel at His feet.
Yeah, that's not really a gratitude that I want to look at. Like, you're letting children suffer and die to diseases at the age of 2, while you let other people live to the age of 100 because they have food.
Because they used foreskin cream because they're elitists.
Yeah, it's like
Well,
thinking about that. It's like, yeah, the Bible's bullshit, and there's a lot of stories you can like trace back thousands of years for the Bible.
Well, no, the thing is, though, Moondog, one time I was at the fair. They had a booth with a preacher, right? So I stopped there to talk to him. And my little sister had just died from tuberous sclerosis about 3 months before. And he starts talking to me about how God has a plan for everybody. I'm like, oh, yeah? Was his plan to kill my little sister? And then I started arguing with him for about 45 minutes until the guy said, you know what? Leave. I'm like, what? I didn't even cuss at him. I'm like, what? Why leave? He's like, because I don't want to talk to you anymore. Leave. I'm like, well, fine. Fuck you too, buddy. And they really don't like being confronted with those type of ideas.
Oh, yeah.
Why? Because they have no answer for them.
And they're very likely to just throw something at you, like somebody else's bullshit. They'll send you a link. They'll hand you a smaller book, but they won't like I'm preaching anarchy right now, and I'm willing to go toe to toe on every aspect of this subject for as long as it takes, within reason. I have to eat and shit and sleep, but These guys will not do that, and that sort of inconsistency and the fact that a lot of them were very milquetoast and armchair warrior-y, that sort of started to turn me off. This is a fucking war, and you're acting like it's something that you should just do passively. This is a fucking war against demons for the fundamental nature of everything, and you're telling me that this is the best you can offer? And, you know, double that with the fucking music that they listen to. The fact that it's all basically repurposed love songs on a sexual relationship level, and the fact that it all sounds like they're just all horny for this one dude. You know, it's really fucking sick when you start to think about this relationship between God and supposedly his people, as anything analogous to any other sort of relationship. Because if this was a human relationship, this would be a restraining order. Everybody would get a restraining order, and the people who wouldn't would have been beaten the fuck out of to death. This is not the kind of thing you want to live with.
You also think about that God's right-hand man used to be Lucifer, who now owns hell. He tried to dethrone God because he hated how we were suffering. So, I mean, that tells you more than enough that if Lucifer hated that how God was treating his own people, and he just cast down to hell, that more than likely changed people going from Christianity to Luciferan.
Well, no,
and of course, go ahead.
Oh, real quick. That's the same type of mythology story, though, as the Greek story of the god who gave humans fire, and then he was sent to Hades for an eternity. I mean, anybody that helped mankind in the deity sense was sent to hell or Hades. I mean, it's a repeating story throughout all the mythology.
Yeah, you're speaking on Prometheus. The
yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, and of course Mithra, basically Jesus, but before Jesus was Jesus.
Or Horus.
Right.
Depends on which version of the sky cake you want to eat.
Well, also Krishna, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yep, Krishna, Horus, Mithra. Is that the one you said before?
Yep.
Yeah.
And what was the other one?
Well, and of course now we have Russell Brand.
Yeah, close enough. We had Siddhartha Gautama when he fucking tripped over a fucking butchered carcass just walking outside of his temple gates after he left behind all of his riches and bitches. Boom! Face was, oh my god!
Mm-hmm. And of course, by the way, before anybody accuses me of something, because I know they will, I do not support a lot of what Russell Brand has to say, but I do think that the fact that he's getting conversations going and willing to talk with a variety of people is very fucking positive. He's sort of like a leftist Joe Rogan.
Well, that's kind of an interesting concept, even in itself. I believe we need a dichotomy of comedy. Not that anymore. There's no George Carlins anymore. There's no Robin Williams.
Bo Burnham is fucking fantastic at deconstructing shit.
Yeah.
Who's that, Jeremiah?
Bo Burnham.
Yep.
Bo Burnham, Bill Burr.
Doug Stanhope.
Louis C.K.
Well, Louis C.K. He kind of got some media shot his way.
I don't care about that. He masturbated. That's all he did.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
And the other thing is he even asked.
Yeah. And then, that's what I don't like. I regretted it later, so it was rape or sexual assault. Fuck feminism.
Feminism was meant to destroy a society. That's all it was meant for. All you got to do is go look back at the fucking Roman Republic to see this shit. It's pushing women's rights in a fallacious, vile, venomous manner in the name of equality, which is the same context as what I mentioned about the article. The Invention Secrecy Act when we were talking about conspiracy theories, and
Well, I've been talking about conspiracies this whole time, but carry on.
But they go conspiracy theory.
Yeah. Well, And I have a shirt, by the way, if anyone wants to buy it. It says "Proud Conspiracy Theorist" on it.
Yeah, the Convention Secrecy Act. It's the same context you could use feminism with. The Convention Secrecy Act 1951 was to take whatever they want, seal it under national security. Same fucking deal.
Yeah. Well, and it's you know, it's interesting that you wring your face because most people just wring their hands. So.
Well, no, and to go on. Oh, sorry.
I flop my nuts on the table, whether people like them or not. That's how I am.
Yeah. Well, and I like the idea of looking into conspiracies and making sure that you look into verifiable ones, and you look like you have.
But I don't think he knows he muted himself. He's talking.
I looked into conspiracy theories, and the 99% of them are kind of woo-hoo, but there are the few that are not have actual grains of like actual truth to them. Like, okay, big pharma, no shit.
Yeah, well, and I would
secrecy,
say that 99% is a rather like steep number there. I would say that like a lot of them have like elements mixed into them intentionally. The CIA story within a story distractionary tactics, for instance, that's a really good way to keep people off your trail. But go ahead.
Well, that's okay. That's a good counter argument. I'll accept that. But a chunk of conspiracy theories, some of them have grains of actual, salt to them, actual nugget of truth to them that they could be based around. Well, some of them are actually flabbergasted, like.
Oh, could we have an example?
Well, for example,
flat Earth.
So I'll use this one as an example. I wouldn't know if we call it a conspiracy theory, but Spheria. You ever heard of the raw meat eater Spheria? It's a YouTube channel. It's about 20-something thousand, I think, subscribers. Could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But he said that, vitamin A toxicity debunked. Don't be scared of vitamins. The government. Now, I would believe if I were to believe that, then I would have to deny the Paleolithic evidence we found of early humans. I mean, they talked to paleontologists and anthropologists talked about this. I would have to deny all the independent studies showing vitamin A. Oh, too much of this will kill a motherfucker, or too much of that will kill this kid. I'd have to deny the fact you eat enough polar bear liver a little every day, it's going to kill your ass. It's carnivore's liver. That one, if I want to use an example. But if I want to use another more genuine example, okay. People could disagree with me. That's whatever. But flat Earth, for instance. Flat Earth. I call it hypothesis. Why? Very simple reason, and I've done this with flat earthers when I debated a few of them on the Twitter before mine got censored. I said, "Hey, try this. Go on if you ever manage to get on the Statue of Liberty, get to the highest point. Get a long fucking telescope. I mean, longer than a horse cock. I mean, like real long. Just make sure you're able to see through it and the lens is clear and adjust it and watch a ship come into view. When it comes into view, it's gonna look like it's rising out of something. If that don't prove the curvature, and as it comes in full view, it looks like it's rising out of a deeper part of the water and it's coming into view. That doesn't show the curvature in itself. If this whole thing was fucking flat, you would see it would look like just a tiny dot just coming up, growing and growing as it came into view. It would not look like it was rising up. That little experiment could prove the curvature of the Earth. Besides, the ancient Greeks got this. They called it a complete sphere, but technically they say the equator is just a tiny bit wider, or else it would be what the ancient Greeks said based on their own calculations thousands of years ago, which they got from the Phoenicians, basically exploring the seas for so many fucking years. 7 seas and all. They said it was a perfect ball, but according to the math that we have available it's
an oblate spheroid.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well, there was one last topic. If you guys still feel like talking about it, independence.
Sure.
Okay, so when the United States declared independence, I believe they were seceding from the UK. I believe the Declaration of Independence is a secession document, and I believe MC, shut up in the chat. I could hear your blood boiling from here. I believe that legitimizes secession. What say the panel?
I'll go last on this one. I got a shit ton to say.
America, fuck yeah! Independence, fuck yeah! Fireworks, hell yeah!
On your last part, I would like to ask, what Moondog said was but on the last part, what would your definition of that be?
Shit to be your topic.
Definition of what? Legitimizing secession. It legitimized secession because they were seceding from the Commonwealth of Great Britain. That is the act they were doing. They were saying, these are the reasons we are leaving, and we have left. That is the exact same thing the Confederacy did.
Well, I mean, Brexit tried to do that as well, I think.
Yeah, well, Abraham Lincoln said that secession was not a legitimate cause after he had said it was in the 1850s, but I'm going to cover that in my Civil War series with MC. We'll get into that. But I believe secession to be a natural state of affairs. We, the people, have the right to leave a compact we no longer want to engage in. And I believe that is what the United States did and what we're going to celebrate in 2 days. Go ahead.
Yeah. I will agree to that. Provided, like, if the people can unite under that type of common ground, or at least meet in the middle of all common ground, and they are actually able to, then yes, I believe that I do agree with you.
Okay, and Derpy, do you want to go real quick before Jeremiah goes on his short little rant? He said he had a lot to say, so I figure it's going to be a little rant.
Oh, you mean about the succession? No arguments from me. Nothing different. There's nothing to add from me. So I want to hear what Jeremiah has to say because I'm very intrigued by this individual, to say the absolute least.
Like what you said and how you said it, I will agree. But yes, I am very, very interested in what Jeremiah is wanting to say on it.
All right, so every president has royal blood in them. And it's not really a surprise if you think about this as like them coming from England. But the fact that it's the same royal blood should be of certain suspicion, I should say. But beyond that,
this royal blood.
Well, you should just look it up, like, look, because I don't mean to sound like a feminist when I say that, like with the Watson Institute stuff. But like this little girl, this 13-year-old girl, won a science fair for doing this project and conclusively proved that there was this certain lord that all these presidents were directly related to. So I would definitely recommend just looking up that.
Some presidents were elected because they was great military leaders.
Okay, but beyond that, because that's just like the sort of
nepotistic system that he's conveying.
Yeah. And so beyond that, like, because I don't want to get hung up on that detail. That's just something that, like, really always strikes me as fucking a middle finger to independence. But, like, as soon as the U.S. declared independence, Whiskey Rebellion. As soon as the U.S. declared independence, suddenly they were spreading their empire, just like the Crown did. And, of course, royal blood in this Crown spreading essentially, when they reformed alliances on a global level, and when the globalists, as myself and Alex Jones would call them, started to take over, in a lot of ways, the U.S. lost its independence already. But, and that's sort of codified in my view on the Civil War, which, I'm not on the side of the South, but specifically, I don't think that they got a fair shake in terms of the way that they were portrayed in history books.
The Civil War wasn't about racism; it was about money.
Yeah. Well, it was about land grabs. It was about testing power. It was about suspending habeas corpus and Lincoln being somebody who should have been shot before he, could ascend to power, much less before he could fuck over the South.
And it was also about the like when I talked about industrial. Did I say it in this chat here, or was it before the stream when I said this?
It was when you and I were talking.
Well, it was when I. Okay, cool. It was before the stream. I said that it was also factored in, like, okay, the Redneck Manifesto, what Jim Goad mentioned in the Redneck Manifesto. When you go look back in history, the industrialization, you had Cotton Gin by Eli Whitney, 1790. 1820s, 1830s, the goddamn steam tractor, power tractor, traction
by the
engine,
way,
machine.
the cotton gin was not meant to be distributed to the public. That was actually on a bet, and he was never intending that to be publicly.
And they lost the fucking bet, I presume.
No. What happened was. Now the thing about Eli Whitney and the thing about history is that you have to look into the life story of these people as well in order to get a full understanding of how exactly it got popularized and what was happening.
Right.
What had happened was because most people are like, oh, well, Eli and Whitney invented the cotton gin, and he, it was like they're under the assumption that he had did it and went, aha, I have this invention that everybody is going to love. No, he actually was pissed whenever they replicated it. It was he had made it on a bet. But the farmlands were making money off of slave labor. And he had argued, well, I can create a system that would be a lot faster, and it would not require you to do this with slavery. And and during that time, the whole thing about slaves and stuff, they didn't look at it that way. They saw it as justified. And like I said, whenever we are talking about this, we have to look at it through that lens. So Eli Whitney said, yeah, I can. And they had gotten him a little bit drunk where he was staying, and they said, no, you can't. And, they were digging into his pride. And he said, you know what? I'll do it in this barn. And he does it in that barn. And he invents the cotton gin, and he does it and lets them hold on to it for a short time. And at the moment that they held on to it, they were like, oh, so this is how this works. This is how that works. Okay. And then they made they redistributed it. And at the beginning of that, he was pissed.
Yeah, and it was also number one patent, the very first United States patent of all time, was the very first one, as well.
Yeah. So I mean, and to get back into the meat of it, the fact that one part of the U.S. could not declare independence from another part of the U.S. is emblematic to me of the lack of independence inherent in the U.S.'s foundation, formation, and expansion. So fuck the Yankees, and also fuck the idea that the U.S. is independent at all, especially now that they're in debt to everybody. Not to mention the fact that that realistically, when you get to a level of independence where you can personally secede, just do it. Personally secede. Get away from this abusive relationship the state has you in. My idea of independence is personal independence. And with all due respect to everybody in the chat, even the ones popping out, I think that the idea of independence has been fucking bastardized by the U.S. government and its allies, where we still celebrate Independence Day while supporting Israel at hundreds of millions of dollars a day, while supporting Saudi Arabia at greater amounts, while paying debts back to countries like China while being in Afghanistan to farm lithium and oil and, you know, protect opium fields so that the Chinese can keep their drug trade going. This is not independence. I love the idea of independence. This ain't fucking it. So remember that on 4th of July, motherfuckers. That's what I have to say.
Well, yeah,
right.
I was gonna say, any other thoughts? Because that seems like a pretty good spot to end her off. We've gone 3 hours. I usually do too. So,
Yeah,
any more thoughts?
I usually do 3, so.
Yeah, that was a very I think that tied it to the bow.
Well, no, and I would like to say here on air, I enjoyed all 3 of you guys joining us. The Redeye stream link is always in Discord. Jeremiah, I don't know if you have Discord, but I can send you the link. Oh, well, I'm going to send you my Discord link in the side chat. Just stick around after we end the show real quick. And I always post it there, and anybody in my Discord is able to join any show. That's why we have such a big panel there for a little bit. Any final thoughts? Anything else you want to say? You want to shill your channel one more time? By the way, please like and subscribe. I do have a Patreon and a PayPal link. Hook me up, you know, be generous. And if you can't be generous, at least subscribe. I would appreciate any subscribers. I'm trying to hit 2,000, hopefully. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, any final thoughts, guys?
Well, I guess I'll go ahead and say that in about 3 to 4 hours, I'm going to be coming up on stream doing my whole League of Legends thing. And we kind of, it might be fighting a ferret this time, I'm not sure. But we do just video games. We stream every night. So if you guys like we have conversations, but we also have video games in the background kind of thing. Because I believe that Gamergate taught me something, and that's if you're dealing with politics and you don't want to be censored, then having a video game up will help you in a stream.
I might want to remember that. That's some good advice.
Yeah. Because then you're playing a video game and you're telling about the video game, but the topics that you're also talking about can be a little bit more controversial because it's just topics that happen, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Derpy, any last thoughts before we sign out here?
Well, I'm actually trying to find a video converter that I don't have, trying for free anyway, that's able to convert my 500 megabyte size video file, because I can't really compress it, because if I do, I'm going to lose a little video quality. But, well, might try it anyway, but I was working on my, a couple of mini-series. I was talking about hypermyelin, and what was one of them. Another was a very controversial invention. And then the inventor and what he went through. And by episode 3, I did get a little misty-eyed and I got sentimental because of some of the things that I know the inventor's son. I hung out with the inventor's son, and I noticed some things that the inventor and my dad had in common. Like, they got corporately fucked. They got a lot of shit happen to them. But what made me sad was how the inventor was done a lot worse. He was societally rejected, and, you know, a lot of things. I would get into it. I'm also going to do a few little personal lessons to learn from me, and it'll be a little more open about myself, about some things. I'm also getting my hypermodeling mini-series will be finished real soon, but I got tonight, I'm going to have to finish it. I'm going to have to upload it sometime tomorrow, because tonight I'm going to have to finish converting certain files and stuff, and then go to my relative's house, because they got to get up extremely early in the morning. I got to be there today. Get up! Get up! And it's Derpy Redneck. It's on my, you gotta give you a little brief preview of my profile picture, if you can see it. I don't know if you can see it now or not, but that's a 7,000-year-old Chinese grave. One side, that's a dragon. The other side is a tiger, supposed to be. I don't know why. It does not fit with my character, but I went with it because fuck it.
Well, the dragon and the tiger were a symbolism of good and evil and the conflict of the two.
Well, I mean, I don't know what that's got to do with my channel.
Yeah.
Well, maybe your channel is conflict. You're talking about, different inventions, it sounds like, and maybe a little conspiratorial stuff. I can see how that could relate.
Well, I mean, just look at Tesla and Edison.
Tesla, I can do a fucking franchise of videos on him. In fact, I actually finished the radiant energy, how he did that energy from the cosmos and out from and the atmospheric ion aspect as well. And I also got files.
I know.
Well, I was telling you.
I shouldn't have said the T word. He's wanting to wrap up his stream, Derpy. So
yeah, I understand.
Let's go ahead and save that for right now.
Check it out if you want to, but yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great. He's whipping out files. I like this guy. Jeremiah, any last thoughts, man? And it's been a pleasure. Real quick, it's been a pleasure having you on. Even though my buddy Straight Sith Male had a go at you, but hopefully,
I have no problem with that. Zero problem.
Okay. All right. Cool.
I mean, I wish he wasn't, a waterhead, but we could discuss that at some other point. Okay, multiple things. First off, I'm glad you invited me. I hope everybody can sub. I'm youtube.com/Jeremiah Talks. You can find me on Twitter at Insanity is free, one word. I do 2 3-hour streams a week, and I, like this long only. I'm used to it. Like, I do 2 3-hour streams a week. I do an e-radio show on Wednesdays. I do what else? Fucking thing. I do a podcast that I'm going to submit soon, where I interview people who are trying to work against the state. I am trying to get to my first 1,000 subs, so if anybody wants to assist me in doing that, you can go to my channel. And I tweeted this out on my Twitter, so if you just search the link, you could probably find my account, or you could just go to @InsanityIsFree. And I had a good time talking with the people who are here, even the ones who dislike me, because essentially I think that having this sort of conversation is the way forward. And if I refuse to have these sorts of conversations with those whom I disagree, I'm not going to succeed, even if I wanted to. So I do hope that people realize that when I make an insult to somebody who's insulting me without presenting an argument, or when I, get loud because somebody is trying to talk over me, that sort of thing is not me discounting the ideas. I'm a solipsist. I could not exist. This entire thing could be a sim, and I could be fucking wrong about everything. I don't give a shit. I'm going to admit the possibility that I could be wrong about everything, and then say, well, I don't think I'm wrong about this, though, at least within the context of this sim. And if you can prove me wrong, I'm more than willing to admit it. But I have not seen a stable, solid counter-argument for plenty of things. This stream, included, taxation not being theft, and government not being a group of slave masters, and us not being a bunch of cattle on a giant tax farm. So I would just advise people start to think about who holds their leash. And if you don't think there is a leash, just think of what you rely on, and think about why you rely on that, and think about any possible better system and why it isn't already here, much less why you aren't advocating it. Because I think that you'll find that the biggest chain is around your neck in your own mind, and you have the capability to pull it off. You are a stable, strong individual if you let yourself be, and you could fuck these motherfuckers up that have been destroying you your entire life. And I would advise everybody, think of themselves as a self-owning unit and free themselves in terms of their own mental prison, instead of begging the warden for the keys. Personally, seek your own independence, fuck the 4th of July, and fuck all government. Smash the state.
Well, on that note, I do want to point out I did put Jeremiah's link in the description. I was stupid and I forgot to put the name before it. I kind of thought it was like a regular link where it'll pop up with his name, and it didn't. So in editing after we end the show, I will correct that. But the links for Jeremiah, MC, the Mole, Vosh, They're all in there. I did not have your link, Derpy, because, well, I'm not subscribed yet, and I didn't even know you had a channel or would be joining us. But I can correct that if you send it to me in the side chat after we end the show. This has been the Redeye stream number. Okay, cool. This has been the Redeye stream 135. I will be back on the 4th of July. Turns out I'm not going to the coast, so I will be here to broadcast. And good night and good fucking luck, everybody. We're out of here. Peace.